The night everything changed. They said he took advantage of her, that he crossed a line no decent man should cross. The whispers started before sunrise, the accusations before lunch. By noon, Ethan Cole, the quiet company driver who never asked for anything, was labeled a predator. But here's what they didn't know. The security cameras caught everything, every moment, every choice. And when the truth finally came out, it didn't just clear his name, it exposed who they all really were. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The ballroom smelled like money and desperation. Ethan Cole stood near the service entrance, hands clasped behind his back, watching the corporate elite of Meridian Solutions drift through the grand hall like schools of exotic fish. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across tailored suits and silk gowns. Laughter echoed off marble floors, the kind that sounded rehearsed, performed. He'd driven enough executives to enough events to recognize the difference between joy and networking. "Daddy, can I have the green crayon?" He smiled at the memory from earlier that evening. Maya, his 7-year-old daughter, sprawled across their kitchen table with her homework. "Which green, baby girl? You've got like 8 greens in that box." "The good green, the forest one." "The good green," as if the other greens were somehow inferior, lazy, not pulling their weight in the crayon box. That was Maya, specific, particular, seeing distinctions nobody else bothered to notice. "Mr. Cole," Ethan straightened. James Rivera, the head of operations, approached with that tight smile supervisors wore when they needed something off script. "Sir, we've got a situation." Rivera's voice dropped lower. "Ms. Hales had a bit too much to drink. Her usual driver already left, and we need someone discreet to take her home." Ethan's stomach tightened. Victoria Hale, the CEO. The woman whose face graced the covers of business magazines with headlines like "The Ice Queen of Tech" and "Breaking Glass Ceilings with Steel Resolve." He'd driven her exactly twice in 3 years, both times in complete silence except for her clipped directions. "Of course," Ethan said. "Where is she?" Rivera gestured toward the far corner where a cluster of board members had formed a protective semicircle. Through the gaps between expensive suits, Ethan caught glimpses of Victoria, her dark hair slightly disheveled, her posture rigid despite the obvious alcohol clouding her movements. "Discreet, Cole." "Absolutely discreet." "Always am, sir." Ethan made his way through the crowd, each step measured. He'd learned long ago how to move through spaces like these, present but invisible, helpful but forgettable. It was a survival skill for men like him, men who worked for people who preferred not to really see them. "Ms. Hale?" He kept his voice gentle, professional. "I'm Ethan Cole. I'll be driving you home tonight." Victoria turned, and for a moment her eyes struggled to focus. Up close, she looked different than the polished executive he'd glimpsed in hallways. Her makeup had smudged slightly at the corners, and her jaw, usually set in that famous expression of controlled determination, had gone slack. "I don't need—" she started, then swayed. Ethan moved instinctively, catching her elbow with just enough pressure to steady her without being presumptuous. "Easy. Let's get you some air." "Don't touch me." The words came out slurred but carried an edge of panic. He released her immediately, hands up. "Just trying to help, ma'am, but I need you to work with me here. Can you walk?" She blinked at him, processing. Then, slowly, she nodded. The journey from the ballroom to the parking garage felt like navigating a minefield. Victoria alternated between fierce independence, shaking off any assistance, and sudden moments where her legs simply stopped cooperating with her intentions. Each time she stumbled, Ethan caught her with the bare minimum contact necessary, always releasing the moment she regained balance. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. "Spinning," she muttered. "It'll pass." Ethan kept his gaze fixed on the descending floor numbers. "Once we get you home, some water, some rest, you'll feel better." "You don't know that." "No, ma'am. But I've got a pretty good track record with optimistic predictions." Her eyes cracked open, studying him. "You have a daughter." Ethan's eyebrows rose. "Yes, ma'am." "I remember. You requested schedule changes last year. School events." Her words ran together slightly, but the memory was there, sharp beneath the alcohol. "Rivera wanted to deny it. I overruled him." "I didn't know that." and he hadn't. The schedule change had simply appeared one day. No explanation, no acknowledgement. People think I don't pay attention. Victoria's head lolled slightly. I pay attention to everything. The elevator doors opened. Ethan guided her toward the black town car, unlocking it with the key fob Rivera had pressed into his palm. Getting Victoria into the back seat required a delicate choreography. Her cooperation was sporadic at best, her motor control worse than he'd initially assessed. Arms in, he said softly, making sure her limbs were clear before closing the door. The drive to Victoria's penthouse should have taken 20 minutes. Ethan stretched it to 30, taking turns carefully, avoiding potholes, trying to minimize the nausea that was clearly building in his passenger. Every few minutes, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Victoria sat rigid in the back seat, eyes closed, breathing deliberately through her nose. She'd positioned herself in the exact center of the seat, hands gripping the leather on either side as if the car might suddenly flip. Almost there, Ms. Hale. No response. You doing okay? Define okay. Her voice was tight. Fair point. The penthouse building rose from downtown's core like a glass monument to excess. Ethan pulled into the private garage entrance, scanning for the spot marked with Victoria's name. He found it near the elevator bay. 2 spaces actually marked V. Hale, reserved. Getting Victoria out of the car proved harder than getting her in. She'd gone limp, her earlier rigidity replaced by a boneless quality that made every movement difficult. Ms. Hale? We're here. She mumbled something incoherent. I need you to work with me one more time, just to the elevator, then up to your place. Can you do that? Her eyes opened, unfocused. Can't. Sure you can. Come on. Ethan leaned in, offering his arm. Use me as a crutch if you need to. This time she didn't protest the contact. Her fingers wrapped around his forearm with surprising strength, and together they managed to extract her from the back seat. She immediately sagged against him, and Ethan had no choice but to wrap an arm around her waist to keep her upright. They stumbled toward the elevator in an awkward 3-legged race. Victoria's heels clicked unevenly against the concrete, and twice she nearly pulled them both down. Each time, Ethan adjusted, redistributed weight, kept them moving forward. The elevator required a key card. Ethan managed to fish it from Victoria's purse while keeping her vertical, a feat that required more coordination than it should have. Which floor? He asked as the doors closed. Top. She was fading fast now, consciousness slipping away in increments. The elevator climbed. Ethan watched the numbers increase while supporting Victoria's weight. This wasn't in the job description, but then again, the job description for company driver was more suggestion than contract. Do what's needed. Stay invisible. Don't cause problems. The elevator opened directly into Victoria's penthouse. Ethan had expected luxury, but the reality still caught him off guard. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city's glittering sprawl. Minimalist furniture in whites and grays occupied a space that could have housed 3 families comfortably. Art that Ethan suspected was original and expensive adorned the walls. And it was cold. Not temperature-wise, but in atmosphere. Everything looked staged, untouched, like a showroom rather than a home. Okay, Ethan said, more to himself than Victoria. Let's get you to bed. He helped her through the vast living space, down a hallway where her footsteps echoed. The master bedroom was more of the same, immaculate, impersonal, expensive. The bed looked like it had been made by professionals. Ethan guided Victoria to sit on the edge of the mattress. She immediately started to tip sideways. Whoa, hold on. He steadied her, then knelt to remove her heels. The straps were complicated, tiny buckles that his fingers struggled with. These things are basically torture devices. Fashion, Victoria mumbled, is pain, apparently. He got the first shoe off, started on the second. You're being nice. Ethan paused, looking up at her. Her eyes were half closed, but something in her expression had shifted. A vulnerability that made her look younger, uncertain. Just doing what anyone should do, ma'am. No. She shook her head slowly. People don't. Not really. Not when there's nothing in it for them. He got the second shoe off, set both aside. Maybe you've been dealing with the wrong people. Victoria laughed, a short, bitter sound. That's the whole world, then. The whole world is wrong people. Ethan stood, backing toward the door. You should get some rest. I'll leave a bottle of water on your nightstand, and I'll make sure your car gets back to the garage safely. Wait. Her hand shot out, grasping air. Don't go. He froze. Ms. Hale, please. The word came out broken, desperate. Don't leave me alone. I can't. When I'm alone, when it's too quiet, I start thinking about... She cut herself off, shaking her head. Just stay, please. Just until I fall asleep. Every instinct Ethan had screamed that this was a bad idea. He should leave, call someone, find a female colleague to come stay. There were 1,000 reasons why a male employee should not remain in his drunk female CEO's penthouse. But she was looking at him with eyes that held something he recognized. The same fear he'd seen in Maya's face when the nightmares came. When she woke up crying about monsters or losing him, or the 1,000 things that haunted children in the dark. Loneliness. Pure aching loneliness. Okay, he heard himself say. I'll stay on the couch, just until you're asleep. Relief washed over Victoria's features. Thank you. Ethan helped her get situated, pulling back the covers, making sure she was positioned on her side in case she got sick. He filled a glass with water from the ensuite bathroom, placed it within easy reach, and set a wastebasket beside the bed. I'm going to leave the bathroom light on, he said. And your bedroom door cracked. If you need anything, just call out. She was already drifting, eyelids fluttering closed. Ethan retreated to the living room, sinking onto the pristine white couch that felt more like an art installation than furniture. The city lights sparkled through the windows, a constellation of human ambition laid out below. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. 11:47 p.m. His babysitter, Mrs. Chen from across the hall, had agreed to stay until midnight. He fired off a quick text. Running late. Emergency at work. Can you stay? We'll pay extra. The response came quickly. Of course. Maya is sleeping. Take your time. Ethan leaned his head back, closing his eyes. He'd stay an hour, maybe 2, just until Victoria was deeply asleep and unlikely to wake up disoriented or in need of help. Then he'd slip out quietly, catch a cab home, and this whole strange night would be over. The couch was comfortable despite its artistic appearance. The apartment was silent except for the distant hum of climate control. Ethan's body, running on 4 hours of sleep from the night before and a full day of driving, began to relax despite his intentions. Just rest his eyes for a minute. Just a minute. He didn't remember falling asleep. Consciousness returned in fragments. First, unfamiliar ceiling, white, smooth, expensive. Second, his neck ached from an awkward angle. Third, sunlight, too much sunlight. Ethan sat up fast, heart hammering. The pristine living room swam into focus, the city visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, Victoria Hale's penthouse. Oh no. He grabbed for his phone. 6:23 a.m. He'd slept here, all night, in his boss's apartment. Panic clawed up his throat. This looked bad. This looked really incredibly bad. He needed to leave, needed to... What are you still doing here? Ethan's head snapped toward the voice. Victoria stood in the hallway entrance wearing a silk robe, her hair wild around her shoulders. Her face had gone pale, eyes wide with something that might have been fear or might have been fury, or both. Ms. Hale, I can explain... Explain what? Her voice climbed higher. Why you're in my apartment? Why you... Did we... She couldn't finish the sentence, one hand rising to her head as if to physically hold together the fragmented memories from the night before. Nothing happened. Ethan stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. You asked me to stay on the couch until you fell asleep, that's all. I sat out here, and I must have dozed off, but I never... I don't remember. She backed up a step. I don't remember asking you to stay. I don't remember... Her breathing had gone rapid, shallow. Ms. Hale, you need to breathe. You're going to hyperventilate. Don't tell me what to do. But she was leaning against the wall now, one hand pressed to her chest. Ethan wanted to help, but knew any movement toward her would make things worse. You were drunk. I drove you home because Mr. Rivera asked me to. You couldn't walk, so I helped you to your bedroom. You asked me not to leave. I stayed on the couch. That's everything. I swear that's everything. Victoria's eyes searched his face, looking for lies, for cracks in his story. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Then why are you still here? Because I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. I was supposed to leave once you were out, but I was tired and the couch was comfortable and he shook his head. There's no good way to explain this, is there? No? Her voice had gone cold now, controlled. The vulnerability from last night had vanished, replaced by the executive armor Ethan recognized from company meetings. There isn't. I should go. Yes. You should. Ethan grabbed his jacket from where he draped it over the couch arm, checked for his wallet and keys. Victoria watched him with the intensity of someone documenting evidence, memorizing details. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Ms. Hale, I really was just trying to help. She didn't respond. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. Ethan's mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. She'd report this. Obviously, she'd report this. He'd be fired, possibly arrested. The phrase broke into the CEO's apartment would feature prominently, never mind that she'd had the key card, that she'd asked him to stay. Who would believe him? The company driver versus the CEO. The single father from the South Side versus the woman who'd built a tech empire from scratch. No contest. The morning air hit him like a slap when he emerged from the building. The city was waking up, delivery trucks rumbling past, early commuters clutching coffee cups. The whole machine of urban life grinding into gear. Ethan flagged a cab, gave his address, and spent the ride staring out the window while his stomach churned. Mrs. Chen was drinking tea at his kitchen table when he walked in, still wearing last night's dress shirt and slacks. Rough night? She asked without judgment. You have no idea. Ethan collapsed into the chair across from her. How was Maya? Perfect angel, as always. We read 3 stories, and she showed me her spelling homework. Very proud of herself for getting all the words right. That pulled a small smile from him. She studied hard. You look exhausted, Ethan. Go sleep. I'll get her breakfast and walk her to school if you want. I can sleep. Mrs. Chen's tone left no room for argument. Whatever happened last night, you'll handle it better with rest. She was right. Ethan dragged himself to his bedroom, not bothering to change before collapsing onto the mattress. Maya's drawing from last week hung on the wall opposite. A stick figure family labeled "Me and Daddy" in her careful printing. Always help others, he'd taught her. Even when it's hard. Even when nobody's watching. That's what good people do. He'd meant it, still meant it, even if doing the right thing was about to cost him everything. The phone call came at 2:17 p.m. Ethan had managed a few hours of broken sleep, had picked Maya up from school, had just sat down with her for their afternoon snack routine when his phone buzzed with an unknown number. Daddy, you gonna get that? Maya asked around a mouthful of apple slices. Yeah, baby. 1 second. He stepped into the hallway. Hello? Mr. Cole, this is Jennifer Morrison from Human Resources. I need you to come to the office immediately. His stomach dropped. Is this about last night? A pause. We'll discuss everything when you arrive. How soon can you be here? I have my daughter with me. This is time-sensitive, Mr. Cole. Ethan closed his eyes. I can be there in 45 minutes. Another call to Mrs. Chen. Another emergency. Maya's disappointed face when he explained Daddy had to go back to work for a little while. But you just got home, she protested. I know, baby girl. I'm sorry. Mrs. Chen will make you dinner, and I'll be back as soon as I can. You promise? He knelt down to her eye level. I promise. Have I ever broken a promise to you? She considered this seriously. No? Then you know I won't start now. The drive to Meridian Solutions felt like driving to an execution. Ethan's hands gripped the wheel too tight, his mind running through every possible defense, every explanation. But the truth, the simple, mundane truth, sounded absurd even to him. I fell asleep on her couch, like that would absolve him of anything. Jennifer Morrison met him in the lobby, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and an expression that gave nothing away. Mr. Cole, follow me. She led him to a conference room on the 3rd floor. Inside, 2 other HR representatives sat at a long table with folders and laptops arranged like weapons. Please sit. Ethan sat. Morrison opened her folder. We received a complaint this morning regarding your conduct last night. Can you tell us in your own words what happened after the gala? He told them everything. The request from Rivera, Victoria's intoxication, the drive home, helping her to her bedroom, her asking him to stay, falling asleep on the couch, waking up to her confusion and fear. The three HR representatives took notes, asked clarifying questions. Their faces remained professionally neutral, but Ethan could read the skepticism in their pauses, their careful word choices. Did you at any point enter Ms. Hale's bedroom after she fell asleep? No. Did you consume any alcohol last night? No. Did you have physical contact with Ms. Hale beyond what you've described? No. Are you certain? Completely certain. Morrison exchanged glances with her colleagues. Mr. Cole, you understand how this appears. You were alone with an intoxicated woman in her private residence. You admit to spending the night on the couch. I spent the night on the couch because I accidentally fell asleep. I didn't plan to stay. I didn't do anything inappropriate. That's your statement. That's the truth. Ms. Hale's recollection is incomplete. She doesn't remember asking you to stay. She woke up to find you in her apartment with no clear memory of how you got there or what transpired. Ethan's hands clenched under the table. So I'm being punished for helping her get home safely? You're being investigated for a potential breach of conduct and ethics. Until we complete our review, you're suspended without pay. The words hit like a physical blow. Suspended. Effective immediately. You'll need to turn in your keys and access badge. We'll contact you when the investigation concludes. I have a daughter. I have bills. I can't just... These are the terms, Mr. Cole. Morrison's voice wasn't unkind, but it was immovable. You should have considered the consequences before making the choices you made last night. The choice to help someone who needed help? The choice to put yourself in a compromising position with a superior. Surely you can see how that demonstrates poor judgment at minimum. Ethan stood, the chair scraping harsh against the floor. I want to talk to Ms. Hale directly. That won't be possible. Why not? If she doesn't remember, then let me explain. Ms. Hale has made her position clear. This matter is now in HR's hands. Morrison stood as well, signaling the end of the conversation. Please collect your personal items from your locker and surrender all company property before you leave. The walk to the driver's lounge felt endless. Ethan moved through familiar hallways that suddenly felt foreign, hostile. Other employees passed him. Some nodded, some looked away quickly. Some whispered to companions once they thought he was out of earshot. Word had already spread. Of course it had. Corporate gossip moved faster than any official communication. Marcus, another driver, was in the lounge when Ethan arrived. They'd worked together for 2 years, had grabbed beers a few times, had covered each other's shifts. Man, Marcus said quietly, is it true? Is what true? That you and Hale, that she... He couldn't quite form the question. Nothing happened. I drove her home. That's all. Marcus's expression said he wanted to believe that, but his eyes said he wasn't sure he did. Ethan cleaned out his locker in silence, a spare uniform, some sunglasses, the photo of Maya he kept taped inside the door. The photo from her 6th birthday, chocolate cake smeared across her grin, absolute joy radiating from every pixel. Always help others, Daddy? Always, baby girl, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, apparently. He turned in his keys and badge at the security desk. The guard, someone Ethan had chatted with hundreds of times, processed everything without meeting his eyes. The parking garage felt cavernous and empty. Ethan's personal car sat in the employees section, a 12-year-old Honda with a dent in the rear bumper from when Maya had left her bike behind it. He sat in the driver's seat without starting the engine, staring at nothing. Suspended. Under investigation. Branded as someone who'd taken advantage of a drunk woman when all he'd done was try to help. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Heard what happened. That's messed up, man. You should lawyer up. Then another. Did you really think you'd get away with it? Guys like you always think you're untouchable. Then another. My cousin works at Meridian. She said everyone's talking about it. Said you're disgusting. Ethan stared at the messages, watching them multiply. Somehow his number had gotten out. Somehow the story, a twisted, incomplete version of the story, had escaped the building's walls. He turned off his phone, started the car. drove home through Friday afternoon traffic while his entire life came apart around him. Maya knew something was wrong the moment he walked in. "Daddy, you okay?" Ethan manufactured a smile. "I'm fine, baby girl. Just tired." "Mrs. Chen said you had an emergency." "I did, but it's handled now." Lie. Complete lie. Nothing was handled. Everything was broken. But Maya was 7. She didn't need to carry this weight. They made dinner together. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, garlic bread from the freezer. Maya chattered about her day, about the story they'd read in class, about how Keisha had brought in a pet frog for show and tell, and it had escaped and everyone had screamed. Ethan listened, nodded, laughed at the right moments, kept his hands busy so they wouldn't shake. After dinner, after bath time, after 2 stories and the complicated ritual of tucking in Mr. Bear and checking under the bed for monsters, Maya finally drifted off to sleep. Ethan retreated to the living room and turned his phone back on. 47 messages, 32 from numbers he didn't know, the rest from coworkers, some supportive, most not. "This is bad, Cole. Really bad. I thought you were better than this. How could you do that to her? You need to come clean. Take responsibility." He scrolled through them all, each one a small knife finding new flesh. There was no defense, no way to correct the narrative that had already calcified into truth. Ethan Cole, company driver, had assaulted Victoria Hale, CEO. That was the story. The truth, messy, complicated, impossible to compress into a headline, didn't matter. His phone rang, an actual call this time, from a number with a local area code. "Hello? Mr. Cole? This is Rebecca Chen from Channel 7 News. We're running a story about allegations at Meridian Solutions, and we'd like to get your statement." He hung up. It rang again immediately. Different number. He powered the phone off, dropped it on the couch like it was contaminated. This was spiraling. This was becoming something far bigger than a workplace dispute. The media had it now, which meant lawyers would come next, police maybe, all because he tried to help someone. Ethan buried his face in his hands, breathing slowly, trying to hold on to something solid as the world shifted beneath him. He thought about Victoria, about the fear in her eyes this morning, about how that fear had transformed into anger, into accusation. He didn't blame her, not really. She'd been vulnerable, drunk, barely conscious. Waking up with a man in her apartment, memory full of holes, anyone would panic, anyone would assume the worst. But knowing he didn't blame her didn't make this easier. Didn't make the suspension or the gossip or the text messages any less devastating. A soft sound from Maya's room. Ethan went still, listening. Nothing. Just her shifting in sleep, maybe. He walked quietly down the hall, easing open her door. Maya lay tangled in blankets, Mr. Bear clutched to her chest, breathing deep and even. Safe. Innocent. Unaware that her father's world was imploding. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered to the darkness. "I'm so sorry, baby girl." He'd taught her to help others, to be kind even when it was hard. And look where it had gotten him. The weekend crawled by in a haze of forced normalcy. Ethan took Maya to the park on Saturday, pushed her on the swings, helped her across the monkey bars, smiled and waved at other parents while his stomach stayed knotted with dread. His phone stayed off. He couldn't deal with more messages, more calls from reporters, more reminders of the disaster unfolding around him. Sunday brought a text from Rivera. "Need to talk. Call me." Ethan ignored it. Another from Marcus. "People are saying things, man. Bad things. You need to defend yourself." How? How did you defend yourself against a narrative that had already been written, distributed, and accepted as fact? Monday morning, Mrs. Chen knocked on his door at 7 a.m. "Ethan, you have a visitor." He opened the door to find a woman in a sharp suit holding a briefcase. "Mr. Cole, I'm Sarah Winter's attorney. We need to talk about your situation at Meridian Solutions." Ethan glanced back at his apartment where Maya was eating breakfast in her school uniform. "This isn't a good time." "I'm afraid it is. The company is moving forward with termination proceedings. If you want any chance of fighting this, we need to start building your defense now." "I don't have money for a lawyer. I work on contingency for cases like these. Wrongful termination, character defamation. If what you've told HR is true, you have grounds for a lawsuit." "I told them the truth." "Then let me help you prove it." Winter's expression softened slightly. Look, I've seen situations like this before. He said, she said, power dynamics, incomplete evidence. The company will bury you if you don't fight back. They have resources, lawyers, PR teams. You have what? Your word against your CEOs? Ethan's jaw tightened. My word is all I have, and it's the truth. Truth doesn't always win, Mr. Cole. Not without help. He thought about Maya, about rent due in 2 weeks, about the groceries running low and the car that needed new brakes, and the 1,000 small expenses that added up to survival. Okay, he said, come in. They sat at his kitchen table, the same table where Maya did her homework, where they ate dinner, where he'd taught her to tie her shoes. And Winters pulled out forms and documents and began building a case. First question, she said, is there any evidence that supports your version of events? Witnesses? Security footage? Anything? There's footage in the parking garage, and the building's elevator probably has cameras. Good. We'll subpoena that. What about the penthouse itself? Ethan shook his head. I don't know. I wasn't exactly cataloging security systems. We'll find out. Now, tell me again, step by step, everything that happened that night. He went through it all again. The gala, Rivera's request, Victoria's intoxication, the careful drive helping her inside, her plea not to be left alone, falling asleep on the couch. Winters took notes, asked questions, pushed for details he'd thought irrelevant. What was she wearing when you left her in the bedroom? Same dress from the gala. You didn't help her change? No, I took off her shoes, that's all. Anyone else in the building see you? Doorman, security guard? I don't remember. Maybe? The garage entrance might be monitored. We'll check everything. Winters closed her notebook. Here's what's going to happen. The company will argue you took advantage of a vulnerable woman. They'll point to the power dynamic. You're an employee, she's the CEO. She couldn't truly consent to you being there. She asked me to stay. According to you, she doesn't remember. That's the problem. Winters leaned forward. Ethan, can I call you Ethan? This is going to get ugly. The media is already circling. Social media will be worse. Your name is going to be dragged through every dark corner of the internet. You need to be prepared for that. I'm already getting death threats. Her expression didn't change. Then you know what you're facing. The question is, do you want to fight, or do you want to quietly disappear and hope this blows over? Through the kitchen doorway, Ethan could see Maya in the living room, carefully packing her backpack for school. She'd chosen the purple folder today instead of the green one, some decision that made perfect sense to her 7-year-old logic. I have a daughter, he said quietly. She needs to see that doing the right thing matters, that telling the truth matters, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard? Yeah, he met Winter's eyes. Especially then. She smiled, quick, sharp. Good. Then let's go to war. The war Sarah Winters promised came faster than Ethan expected. By Tuesday morning, his face was online. Someone had pulled his employee photo from the company directory and paired it with a headline that made his blood run cold. Meridian Solutions driver accused of exploiting intoxicated CEO. The article was careful with its language. Alleged. Under investigation. Sources say. But the damage was surgical and complete. The comment section exploded with people who'd never met him, never heard his side, but knew with absolute certainty that he was guilty. Typical predator behavior. Hope he rots in prison. Men like this are why women can't feel safe anywhere. Ethan closed the laptop before Maya could see the screen. Daddy, why aren't you at work? She stood in the kitchen doorway, backpack straps hanging off one shoulder, confusion written across her small face. They gave me some time off, baby girl. Thought I could use a break. But you never take breaks. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. Well, maybe I should start. Now come on, or you'll be late for school. The walk to Maya's elementary school normally took 12 minutes. Ethan stretched it to 20, taking the long route through side streets where fewer neighbors would see them. Mrs. Patterson from 3 doors down had already started crossing to the other side when she spotted him yesterday. Mr. Kim at the corner store had served him without making eye contact. Word traveled fast in their neighborhood. At the school gates, Maya turned to hug him. Love you, Daddy? Love you more. He kissed the top of her head. breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Have a good day. She skipped toward the building, purple backpack bouncing. Another parent, Jessica's mom, someone Ethan had chatted with dozens of times at pickup, grabbed her daughter's hand and steered her away when she started to wave at Maya. Ethan's hands curled into fists. His phone buzzed. Sarah Winters. "We got the parking garage footage," she said without preamble. "Shows exactly what you described. You helping Victoria to the car, driving away. Timestamp confirms your timeline. That's good, right? It's something, but it only covers the garage. We need the building footage, lobby, elevator, hallway cameras if they exist. The property management company is stonewalling, claiming resident privacy concerns. Can't you force them? Working on it. Judge should rule on the subpoena by end of week." Papers rustled on her end. Meanwhile, Meridian's PR team is preparing a statement. "My contact says they're planning to announce your termination publicly." Ethan's stomach dropped. "When?" "Tomorrow, probably. They want to get ahead of the news cycle, show they're taking decisive action against workplace misconduct." "I didn't commit any misconduct." "We know that. They don't care." Winter's voice hardened. "This is damage control for them. You're collateral." "So what do I do?" "Stay quiet. Don't talk to reporters. Don't post on social media. Don't defend yourself publicly. Anything you say will be twisted. Let me handle the legal side. And in the meantime, I just watched them destroy my reputation. In the meantime, you document everything. Every threatening message, every accusation, every piece of harassment. We'll need it for the defamation case." After she hung up, Ethan stood on the sidewalk outside Maya's school, watching other parents drift away to their cars and jobs and normal lives. Lives where they weren't suspended, investigated, vilified. His phone buzzed again. Not Winters this time. A photo message from an unknown number. Someone had photoshopped his face onto a mugshot template with the word "Predator" stamped across it in red letters. He deleted it without responding. Then came another, and another. By the time he got home, his inbox was flooded with variations of the same poison. His hands shook as he forwarded them all to Winters, then blocked the numbers one by one. New ones kept appearing. The apartment felt too small suddenly, the walls pressed in. Ethan grabbed his keys and left. No destination in mind, just needing to move. He ended up at Riverside Park, the same place he'd brought Maya on Saturday. It was empty now on a Tuesday morning, just joggers passing through, a few people walking dogs. Ethan sat on a bench overlooking the water and tried to breathe. A woman jogging by glanced at him, did a double take, then pulled out her phone. Ethan watched her type rapidly, shoot another look in his direction, then jog away faster. She'd recognized him. Of course she had. His face was probably all over the local news groups by now. He left the park and drove aimlessly through the city, radio off, trapped with his thoughts. Every red light felt like an accusation. Every pedestrian who glanced at his car might be someone who'd seen the articles. His phone rang. Marcus. "Don't hang up," Marcus said quickly. "I know things are bad, but I need to tell you something." "What?" "There's a photo from the gala. Someone took a picture of you and Victoria in the parking garage." Ethan's chest tightened. "What kind of picture?" "You're helping her walk. Her arms around your waist, your arms around her shoulders. She looks drunk. You look, I don't know, man. It's not good. We were walking to the car. She couldn't stand on her own." "I know, I believe you, but the photo's being shared around the office with some pretty ugly captions. People are saying you took advantage of the situation, that you planned it." "Planned what? Planned for Rivera to ask me to drive her home? Planned for her to get drunk?" "I'm just telling you what people are saying." Ethan pulled into a gas station parking lot, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. "Who took the picture?" "Don't know. Someone at the gala, probably. Maybe another driver." Marcus paused. "Look, I'm sorry this is happening. For what it's worth, some of us don't believe the rumors." "Some of you?" "Yeah, some." Not a ringing endorsement, but Ethan would take what he could get. "Thanks for the heads up," he managed. After Marcus hung up, Ethan sat in the parking lot and stared at nothing. A photo. Evidence of him with Victoria that could be interpreted a dozen different ways, none of them favorable to him. His phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender was listed as a friend. He almost deleted it, but curiosity, or maybe masochism, made him open it. Inside was the photo Marcus had described. Victoria leaning heavily against him, eyes half closed, dress slightly disheveled. Ethan's expression was focused, concerned, completely professional, but the caption underneath read, CEO. Victoria Hale. Moments before driver Ethan Cole allegedly assaulted her. Witness reports he appeared calculated and predatory. Witness reports. Calculated and predatory. He'd been trying to keep her from falling down. Ethan forwarded the email to Winters, then sat with his head in his hands while the gas station's fluorescent lights hummed overhead. This was the narrative now. This was what people saw when they looked at that image. Not a man helping someone who needed help, but a predator selecting his victim. The truth didn't matter. It had never mattered. His phone rang again. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Another unknown number. On the fifth call, he answered just to make it stop. Mr. Cole, this is Detective Lisa Chen with the Metro Police. We'd like to ask you some questions regarding an incident on the night of... He hung up. Police. They'd escalated to actual police. Ethan's hands trembled as he pulled out of the parking lot. He needed to call Winters, needed to figure out what to do, but his brain felt wrapped in cotton. Everything was moving too fast. At a stoplight, he watched a news van drive past with the Channel 7 logo, the same station that had called him Friday night. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Just saw you at Riverside. You've got some nerve showing your face in public. Then another. Stay away from my neighborhood, pervert. How did they know where he was? Had that jogger posted about seeing him? Was someone following him? Paranoia crept up his spine like ice water. The light turned green. Someone behind him honked. Ethan drove home on autopilot, checking his rear-view mirror every few seconds, convinced he'd see a news van or police cruiser tailing him. When he pulled into his apartment complex, Sarah Winters was waiting in the parking lot, leaning against a silver sedan. We need to talk, she said as he got out. The police contacted me. They want you to come in for questioning. I know. They just called. Don't panic. This is standard procedure when there's an accusation like this. You're not under arrest. They just want your statement. Should I give one? Winters tilted her head, considering. Normally, I'd say no. But in this case, with the media circus and public opinion turning against you, staying silent makes you look guilty. We go in, you tell the truth exactly as you told HR, and we get it on record. When? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'll be with you the entire time. She handed him a folder. Read this tonight. It's a prep sheet. What to expect, how to answer questions, what traps to avoid. Ethan took the folder with numb fingers. Is this really happening? Am I actually being investigated for a crime I didn't commit? Unfortunately, yes. But here's what you need to remember. Investigations go both ways. While they're looking at you, we're gathering evidence to prove your innocence. The garage footage is just the start. We get the building cameras, we get testimony from anyone who saw you that night. We build an airtight timeline that shows exactly what happened. And if the footage doesn't exist, if the cameras weren't working or the files were deleted, Winter's expression hardened. Then we fight with what we have. Your testimony, the parking garage video, phone records showing you texted your babysitter from Victoria's building at the time you said you did. We build the case piece by piece. I texted Mrs. Chen from the couch, Ethan said suddenly, around midnight, asking if she could stay later. Perfect. That helps establish your location and state of mind. You weren't doing anything wrong if you're texting your babysitter, right? She checked her watch. I have to run, but read that prep sheet. All of it. And Ethan, get some sleep. You look like hell. She drove away, leaving him alone in the parking lot with a folder full of instructions on how to prove he wasn't a monster. Inside the apartment, Ethan spread the prep sheet across the kitchen table, page after page of advice that basically boiled down to tell the truth, but carefully. Don't volunteer information. Answer only what's asked. Don't let them put words in your mouth. Don't get defensive. Don't show anger. Stay calm, factual, consistent. Be yourself, but not really. The absurdity of it made him want to laugh or cry. He wasn't sure which. At 3:15, he left to pick up Maya from school. The other parents gave him a wide berth at the gates. One father he'd known for 2 years deliberately turned his back when Ethan approached. Maya came out chattering about a science experiment involving vinegar and baking soda. And then it exploded like a volcano, Daddy. It was so cool. Miss Rodriguez said we could do it again tomorrow if we're good. That does sound cool, baby girl. Can we try it at home? Maybe this weekend. They walked home through the side streets again. Maya didn't seem to notice the route change or the way people stared. She was still young enough to be wrapped in the protective bubble of childhood innocence. Ethan wondered how long that would last. When would she hear the rumors? When would some classmate's parent tell their kid to stay away from Maya Cole because her father was dangerous? At home, Maya settled in with her homework while Ethan attempted to make dinner. He burned the rice, overcooked the chicken, and forgot about the vegetables entirely until smoke from the broiler filled the kitchen. "Daddy?" Maya's voice was small. "Are you okay?" He waved away the smoke, opened windows. "I'm fine, just distracted." "You seem sad." "Just tired, baby." "Is it because of work?" "Something like that." She studied him with those too perceptive 7-year-old eyes. "You can tell me, when things are wrong. I'm not a baby." Ethan knelt down to her level. "I know you're not, and I appreciate that. But some things are grown-up problems, and I don't want you worrying about them." "But if you're worried, then I'm worried about you." The simple logic of it cracked something in his chest. He pulled her into a hug, holding on maybe a little too tight. "I love you so much, Maya. You know that, right?" "I know, Daddy." Her small arms wrapped around his neck. "I love you too." They ate burned chicken and crunchy rice at the kitchen table. Maya told him about her friend Keisha's birthday party next weekend, about the book they were reading in class, about how she'd gotten picked to be line leader tomorrow. Ethan listened and nodded and tried to be present, tried not to think about police interrogations and ruined reputations, and the photo of him that was probably being shared across social media platforms right now. After dinner, after homework, after the bedtime routine, Ethan finally allowed himself to check his phone again. 83 new messages, most from unknown numbers, most hateful. One stood out, from Victoria Hale's executive assistant, Karen. "Mr. Cole, I know I shouldn't be contacting you, but I wanted you to know that Ms. Hale has been very upset since Friday. She doesn't remember everything from that night, and I think she's genuinely confused about what happened. She's not herself. I've never seen her like this. I don't know if this helps, but I thought you should know." Ethan read it 3 times. Victoria was upset, confused, not herself. He wanted to feel vindicated by that, wanted to feel like her uncertainty proved his innocence. But mostly he just felt tired. She was scared and confused. He was being destroyed. And somewhere in the middle was the truth that nobody seemed interested in finding. He typed a response. "Thank you for telling me. I hope she's okay." Then deleted it. Responding would only make things worse. Instead, he opened his laptop and searched his own name. The results made him wish he hadn't. Local news sites, social media posts, forums discussing the case. Someone had created a hashtag. #HaleJustice. People were calling for his arrest, his imprisonment, worse. A video had been posted, someone filming him at the park that morning, zooming in on his face. The caption read, "Spotted alleged rapist Ethan Cole walking free while his victim suffers. Where is the justice?" Alleged rapist. The words punched through him like bullets. He'd gone from company driver to alleged rapist in 4 days. Ethan closed the laptop and sat in the dark living room, listening to the building settle around him. Someone's TV played through the thin walls. A car alarm went off in the parking lot, then stopped. Normal sounds, normal life continuing for everyone who wasn't him. Tomorrow he'd talk to the police. He'd tell them the truth and hope it mattered. Hope that somewhere in the justice system someone still cared about evidence over narrative. But tonight, sitting alone in the dark while his daughter slept and his life burned down around him, Ethan felt the full weight of how powerless truth could be. The morning of the police interview arrived wrapped in gray clouds and threat of rain. Ethan dressed carefully, button-down shirt, slacks, nothing too formal but nothing casual either. Sarah Winters had been specific. Look responsible, trustworthy, not like you're trying too hard. He'd managed maybe 3 hours of sleep. The rest of the night had been spent staring at the ceiling, running through potential questions, rehearsing answers that sounded honest without sounding defensive. Mrs. Chen came early to watch Maya. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "Thanks. Will this be over soon?" "I don't know." Ethan grabbed his jacket from the hook by the door. "I really don't know." The drive to the police station felt surreal. Ethan had never been inside one except for an elementary school field trip with Maya's class last year. They toured the building, met some friendly officers, learned about community safety. This felt nothing like that. Winters met him in the parking lot, briefcase in hand, expression set in professional determination. "Remember what we talked about," she said as they walked toward the entrance. "Short answers. Don't elaborate unless asked. Stay calm." "I remember." Inside, the station smelled like coffee and industrial cleaner. A desk sergeant directed them to a conference room on the second floor. Plain walls, plain table, uncomfortable chairs. A camera mounted in the corner. Detective Lisa Chen arrived 5 minutes later with a male partner she introduced as Detective Rodriguez. Chen was maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an expression that gave nothing away. Rodriguez looked younger, early 30s, with the kind of muscled build that came from religious gym attendance. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming in." Chen set a folder on the table and pressed record on a digital recorder. "This is a voluntary interview regarding the incident on the night of March 18th. You understand you're not under arrest and you're free to leave at any time?" "I understand." "Good. Let's start with the basics. How long have you worked at Meridian Solutions?" 3 years, almost 4. "And your role there?" "Company driver. I transport executives to meetings, events, airport runs." "Had you driven Ms. Hale before the night of the gala?" "Twice. Both times for airport trips." Chen made a note. "How would you describe your relationship with her?" "Professional, distant. She wasn't someone who made conversation." "Did you find her attractive?" Winters cut in smoothly. "Detective, my client's aesthetic opinions aren't relevant to what happened that night." Chen smiled thinly. "Just establishing context. Mr. Cole, let's walk through the evening. What time did you arrive at the gala venue?" Ethan went through it all again. The timeline, Rivera's request, Victoria's condition, the drive, helping her inside, staying on the couch. His voice stayed steady, factual, even when Rodriguez interrupted with pointed questions. "When Ms. Hale asked you to stay, did you consider that inappropriate given her intoxicated state?" "I considered leaving," Ethan said carefully. "But she seemed genuinely distressed. I thought staying in the living room was the safer option." "Safer for whom?" "For her, in case she needed help during the night." "Did it occur to you that being alone with an intoxicated woman in her private residence might appear improper?" "It occurred to me that leaving someone drunk and scared alone might be dangerous." Rodriguez leaned forward. "So you made a judgment call to stay, alone, with your boss who was too drunk to consent to your presence." "She asked me to stay." "According to you. She has no memory of that conversation." Winter's hand touched Ethan's arm, a warning to stay calm. "I'm telling you what happened," Ethan said. "She asked me not to leave. I stayed on the couch. I fell asleep accidentally. When I woke up, I left. That's everything." Chen pulled out a photo and slid it across the table. The parking garage image, Ethan and Victoria tangled together, her obviously impaired. "This photo was taken by a security guard who witnessed you helping Ms. Hale to your vehicle. He described your behavior as overly familiar." "Care to comment?" "I was keeping her from falling. There's nothing familiar about preventing someone from hitting the pavement." The guard also noted you seemed to be in a hurry, like you wanted to get her alone quickly. "I wanted to get her home safely quickly. She was in bad shape." Rodriguez took over. "Let's talk about the penthouse. You say you helped her to the bedroom. Describe exactly what that looked like." Ethan described it. The hallway, the bedroom, removing her shoes, positioning her on her side, the water glass, the wastebasket. "You touched her feet. To take off her shoes. Did you touch her anywhere else?" "Her elbow, her shoulder, only to help her walk and sit down." "You sure about that?" Winter's voice went sharp. "Detective, my client has been clear and consistent. If you have evidence suggesting otherwise, present it. If not, stop the insinuation." Chen and Rodriguez exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. Mr. Cole, Chen said, her voice softening slightly. Here's the situation. We have a powerful woman who woke up with you in her apartment and no memory of how you got there. We have witnesses who saw you alone with her while she was severely impaired. We have her statement that she felt violated and scared when she found you there the next morning. I didn't violate anyone. Then help us understand. Why didn't you call someone else to stay with her? A female employee, hotel security, anyone? Because she asked me specifically not to leave. And I thought... Ethan stopped, choosing his words carefully. I thought staying nearby where I could hear if she needed help was better than leaving her completely alone. Noble, Rodriguez said flatly, or opportunistic. Detective, Winters stood. Unless you're planning to charge my client with something, we're done here. Chen held up a hand. Just a few more questions. Mr. Cole, are you aware that Ms. Hale has filed a formal complaint alleging you took advantage of her impaired state? The words landed like physical blows. Formal complaint. Not just HR investigation, but an actual legal accusation. I'm aware people are accusing me of things I didn't do. Are you willing to take a polygraph? Winters answered before Ethan could. We'll consider it and get back to you. What about your phone? We'd like to examine your texts and calls from that night. You have a warrant? We can get one. Then do that. Winters gathered her briefcase. We've cooperated fully. My client has answered your questions truthfully. If you want to pursue this further, go through proper channels. They left the police station with rain starting to fall. Ethan's hand shook as he unlocked his car. That went about as expected, Winters said. They're fishing. They don't have anything concrete or they'd have arrested you already. Victoria filed a formal complaint. Which is her right, but a complaint isn't evidence. They need proof you did something wrong, and there isn't any because you didn't. They asked about a polygraph, which will decline unless absolutely necessary. Those things aren't as reliable as people think. She checked her watch. Look, go home. Be with your daughter. Try to breathe. I'll keep working the legal angles. Ethan drove home through increasing rain, windshield wipers beating a rhythm that matched his racing heart. Formal complaint. They were really doing this, really trying to paint him as a criminal. At home, Maya was doing a puzzle on the living room floor, while Mrs. Chen watched a cooking show on low volume. How did it go? Mrs. Chen asked quietly. About like you'd expect. She studied his face, then nodded. I made soup. It's on the stove. Thank you. After Mrs. Chen left, Ethan sat with Maya and pretended to help with the puzzle. She chattered about her day while he placed pieces in wrong spots and had to be corrected. Daddy, that's sky. It doesn't go in the grass part. Right, sorry. You're not paying attention. I am. I'm just tired. Maya put down her puzzle piece and looked at him seriously. Keisha's mom said I can't come to the birthday party anymore. Everything in Ethan went still. What? She called Mrs. Chen today. Said something came up and they have to keep it small now. But Keisha said her mom told her it's because of you. Maya's voice was small, confused. Did you do something bad, Daddy? The question cracked through him like lightning. No, baby girl, I didn't do anything bad. Then why is everyone acting weird? How did he explain this? How did he tell his 7-year-old daughter that the world sometimes punished people for trying to help? That reputation mattered more than truth, that her father was being destroyed for doing exactly what he'd taught her to do. Sometimes, he said slowly, people misunderstand situations. They hear part of a story and think they know the whole thing. It's happening to me right now. Some people think I did something wrong, but I promise you I didn't. What do they think you did? Something that goes against everything I believe in, everything I've taught you. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I believe you, Daddy. He pulled her into his arms, holding on while she cried against his shoulder. 7 years old and already learning that the world could be cruel and unfair. I know you do, baby girl, and that means everything to me. That night, after Maya finally fell asleep, Ethan sat at his laptop and forced himself to look at the damage again. The hashtag had grown. Hashtag Hail Justice was trending locally. People were organizing outside Meridian Solutions, demanding his arrest. Someone had created a petition calling for prosecution. A new article had appeared. Meridian Solutions terminates driver amid assault allegations. So it was official now. Not just suspended, fired. Ethan read the company's statement with detached horror. Meridian Solutions takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. After thorough investigation, we have terminated the employment of Ethan Cole, effective immediately. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement and support our CEO during this difficult time. Thorough investigation. They talked to him once, suspended him for less than a week, and fired him without ever giving him a real chance to defend himself. Comments poured in below the article. Finally, about time they took action. He should be in jail, not just fired. I hope Victoria Hale sues him for everything he's got. One comment stood out from the hatred. Innocent until proven guilty, people. Whatever happened to that? It had 17 downvotes and 23 replies calling the poster naive, stupid, a rape apologist. Ethan closed the laptop and sat in darkness, broken only by streetlights filtering through the windows. He'd been fired. His reputation was destroyed. The police were building a case against him, and worst of all, his daughter was starting to feel the consequences of accusations he couldn't defend himself against. His phone buzzed, a text from Sarah Winters. Saw the termination announcement. This helps our wrongful termination case. Document everything related to your firing, every email, every communication. We'll make them pay for this. Make them pay, as if money could fix what they'd broken. Another text, this one from an unknown number. You're going to get what you deserve. Ethan deleted it, blocked the number, and added it to the growing file of threats. The rain continued through the night, drumming against windows, washing over a city that had already decided his guilt. Tomorrow he'd figure out how to pay rent without a job. Tomorrow he'd deal with the practical realities of unemployment and legal fees and a daughter who was being socially exiled because of him. But tonight, sitting alone while the accusations multiplied and the truth became irrelevant, Ethan Cole did something he hadn't done since his wife died 6 years ago. He allowed himself to completely fall apart. The breakdown lasted exactly 17 minutes. Ethan knew because he timed it on his phone, watching the numbers tick forward while he sat on the kitchen floor with his back against the cabinet and let everything pour out. The tears came hard and ugly, the kind that left his throat raw and his chest aching. He covered his mouth with both hands to keep the sound contained, terrified Maya would wake up and see him like this. When the 17 minutes ended, he washed his face in the kitchen sink, dried it with a dish towel, and started making a list of what needed to happen next. Find a job. Any job. Rent was due in 11 days. Call his landlord, explain the situation, ask for an extension, check Maya's school account balance for lunch money, file for unemployment benefits, though he doubted they'd approve anything while he was under investigation. The list grew longer, more desperate, each item a reminder of how quickly stability could vanish. At 2 a.m., his phone buzzed with an email. The subject line read, "Building security footage urgent." Ethan's hand shook as he opened it. Sarah Winters had written, "Judge approved the subpoena. Property management sent over the footage from March 18th. You need to see this." Attached was a video file, timestamp 10:47 p.m. Ethan downloaded it, pressed play. The footage showed the building's lobby in grainy black and white. For 3 minutes, nothing happened except the night doorman reading something at his desk. Then the elevator doors opened. Ethan watched himself emerge, supporting Victoria's weight. Her head lolled against his shoulder, her feet dragged. He moved slowly, carefully, adjusting his grip when she started to slip. The doorman looked up, started to rise. On the video, Ethan shook his head. The doorman hesitated, then sat back down. They disappeared into the elevator. The video jumped to a different angle. The elevator interior. Victoria slumped in the corner while Ethan stood a careful distance away, hands clasped in front of him. When the elevator lurched slightly, Victoria stumbled forward. Ethan caught her elbow, steadied her, immediately let go. His face in the footage looked exhausted, concerned. Nothing remotely predatory. The video jumped again. Hallway camera, 23rd floor, Ethan half carrying Victoria to her door, fumbling with the key card, getting it open, both of them disappearing inside. Timestamp, 11:02 p.m. The next clip showed the same hallway, empty, silent. Timestamp, 6:18 a.m. Ethan emerged alone, running a hand through his hair, looking rumpled and disoriented. He pulled the door closed behind him, tested it to make sure it locked, then headed toward the elevator. That was it, the complete video record of that night. Ethan played it 3 more times, looking for anything that could be misinterpreted. But the footage was damning only to the narrative that had been built around him. It showed exactly what he'd said happened: a man helping an impaired woman get home safely, nothing more. He forwarded the video to his personal email, then called Sarah Winters despite the hour. She answered on the second ring. "You saw it. This clears me. This proves everything I said. It helps. A lot. But Ethan, we need to talk about what it doesn't show." His stomach sank. "What do you mean?" "It doesn't show what happened inside the penthouse. For all anyone knows, you could have—" She stopped herself. "Look, I believe you. The footage supports your story, but a prosecutor could still argue that once you were inside, out of camera range, things changed. That's insane. That's the legal system. We present this footage, they'll say it only proves you got her inside. They'll point to the 52 minutes between when you entered and when you texted your babysitter. They'll ask what you were doing during that time. Helping her to bed, getting her water, making sure she wouldn't choke if she got sick. Which we can't prove with video evidence." Ethan's free hand clenched into a fist. "So this doesn't actually change anything." "It changes a lot. It establishes your credibility, shows you were telling the truth about the timeline, about her condition, about how you got into the building. But it's not a magic bullet." Papers rustled on her end. "However, there's something else. The property management company also sent footage from inside the penthouse." Everything stopped. "What?" "Apparently Victoria has security cameras in the common areas. Living room, kitchen, entry hallway. Not the bedroom or bathroom, obviously, but the public spaces." "Why didn't anyone mention this before?" "Because Victoria would have had to authorize releasing that footage, and she's been, understandably, reluctant to hand over video from inside her private residence." Winters paused. "But the subpoena covered all relevant footage. Management had to comply." "Have you watched it?" "I'm watching it now. And Ethan, you're going to be okay." The relief that flooded through him was so intense he had to sit down. "It shows I didn't do anything." "It shows you sat on the couch for approximately 47 minutes, checked your phone twice, and fell asleep. You never moved except to shift positions. You never went near the bedroom after the initial entry. It's the most boring footage I've ever seen, and it's going to save your life." Ethan pressed his palm against his eyes. "Send it to me. I'll send both files, interior and exterior. But Ethan, we need to be strategic about releasing this. The media circus is at peak frenzy right now. We can use this footage to completely flip the narrative, but timing matters. I don't care about narrative, I care about clearing my name." "They're the same thing. Your name gets cleared when the narrative changes." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm thinking we go public. Press conference, full footage release, put Meridian Solutions on the defensive for firing you without reviewing all the evidence." "When?" "Give me 48 hours to set it up properly. I want news outlets lined up. I want the footage edited together with timestamps clearly visible. And I want a statement prepared that makes it crystal clear what this evidence proves." "Victoria has to see this," Ethan said suddenly, "before we go public. She deserves to know the truth." "Ethan, she's been scared and confused this whole time. She thinks something terrible happened because she can't remember. But if she sees this footage, she'll know nothing did." Winters sighed. "That's generous considering she's the reason you're in this mess." "She's scared. I get that. But she also deserves to know she's safe, that nothing happened to her. You're a better person than most people in your situation would be. I'm just tired of everyone being hurt by something that didn't happen." They agreed Winters would reach out to Victoria's attorney about viewing the footage. Ethan hung up and sat in the dark kitchen with his laptop, watching the penthouse video on loop. There he was, collapsed on Victoria's white couch. At the 40-minute mark, he pulled out his phone, the text to Mrs. Chen, probably. Then he set the phone on the coffee table and leaned his head back. His eyes closed. His breathing slowed. He'd fallen asleep sitting up initially. It was only around the 2-hour mark that he'd shifted to lying down, curled on his side with one arm tucked under his head. The most damning thing the footage showed was how uncomfortable the couch looked. Ethan finally closed the laptop around 4 a.m. and managed 2 hours of restless sleep before Maya's alarm went off. Morning routine felt surreal. Making breakfast, packing lunch, helping Maya pick out clothes, all the normal rituals of parenting while his world was held together by video footage and legal maneuvering. "Daddy, you look tired," Maya said around a mouthful of cereal. "Couldn't sleep much." "Because of the thing people think you did?" "Yeah, baby girl, because of that." She thought about this while crunching her cereal. "When will they know you didn't do it?" "Soon, I hope. There's some evidence that shows what really happened." "Like proof?" "Exactly like proof." "That's good." She nodded seriously. "Miss Rodriguez always says evidence is important. That's why we have to show our work in math." The innocent logic of it made Ethan smile despite everything. Miss Rodriguez is a smart teacher. At school drop-off, fewer parents actively avoided him. Maybe word was spreading about the investigation, or maybe they just moved on to other gossip. Either way, Ethan took the small victory. He spent the morning calling about jobs. The grocery store on 5th needed stalkers for the overnight shift. A warehouse 20 minutes out was hiring for their loading dock. Neither paid well, but both paid something. "I can start immediately," Ethan told the warehouse manager. "Great. Background check takes about a week, then we'll get you on the schedule." Background check. Right. "Actually, I should mention, I'm currently involved in a legal situation. Nothing criminal, but there's an investigation." The manager's tone cooled instantly. "What kind of investigation?" "A misunderstanding at my previous job. It's being cleared up, but I wanted to be upfront." "Yeah, thanks for letting me know. We'll call you if the position's still available after the background check." They wouldn't call. Ethan tried 3 more places with similar results. As soon as he mentioned the investigation, the conversation ended. By noon, he was sitting at his kitchen table with his head in his hands when someone knocked on the door. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway holding a casserole dish. "You need to eat," she said, pushing past him into the apartment. "You're getting too thin." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Nobody in your situation is fine." She set the dish on the counter. "Chicken and rice, it'll last you a few days." "Mrs. Chen, I can't." "You can and you will. That child needs her father healthy." She turned to face him, expression stern. "I know what people are saying. I don't believe a word of it." Something in Ethan's chest loosened slightly. "Thank you. I've known you 3 years. I've watched you with Maya. You're a good father and a good man. Whatever happened with that woman, I know you didn't hurt her." "I didn't. There's video footage that proves it." "Good. Then this will be over soon, and those vultures spreading rumors can choke on their words." She patted his arm. "Until then, you eat. You take care of yourself. Maya needs you strong." After she left, Ethan heated up some of the casserole and ate mechanically while scrolling through job listings on his phone. Nothing he was qualified for paid enough to cover rent and daycare. Everything entry-level wanted experience he didn't have. His phone rang. Sarah Winters. "Victoria's legal team agreed to a viewing, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., at my office. She'll watch the footage with her attorney present." "Okay." "Ethan, manage your expectations. Even seeing the evidence, she might not react the way you hope. People process trauma differently." "She wasn't traumatized. Nothing happened to her." "She thinks something did. That's its own kind of trauma." Winters paused. "Just be prepared for any reaction." The next morning arrived too fast and too slow simultaneously. Ethan dressed carefully again, trying to look professional despite having no profession left. He borrowed a tie from the back of his closet, one he'd worn to his wife's funeral and hadn't touched since. Sarah Winters' office was in a converted brownstone downtown. Tasteful, but not flashy. The kind of place that said competent without screaming expensive. The receptionist showed him to a conference room where Winters was setting up a laptop connected to a large monitor. "She'll be here in 10 minutes, Winters said. "Her attorney's name is Michael Brennan. He's going to be skeptical and protective. Don't take it personally." "I won't." "And Ethan, if at any point this becomes too much, we can stop. You don't owe her this meeting." "Yes, I do." Victoria arrived exactly on time, flanked by Michael Brennan and another woman Ethan didn't recognize. Victoria looked different than he remembered. thinner, paler, with dark circles under her eyes that even professional makeup couldn't quite hide. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, but it hung slightly loose on her frame. Her eyes met his for a fraction of a second before sliding away. "Ms. Hale, thank you for coming," Winters said formally. "Please, sit." They arranged themselves on opposite sides of the conference table. Victoria's team on one side, Ethan and Winters on the other. The distance felt simultaneously too close and not nearly enough. Brennan spoke first. "We're here as a courtesy, Ms. Winters. My client has no obligation to view any footage, and her presence should not be construed as understood." Winters cut him off smoothly. "We're simply offering the opportunity to see what actually happened that night. Ms. Hale indicated she has no memory of events. This footage may help fill in those gaps." Victoria's hands were folded on the table in front of her. Her knuckles were white. "How long is the video?" she asked quietly. "We've edited it down to the relevant portions. About 12 minutes total. And it shows?" "Everything." Winters looked at Ethan, who nodded. "It shows Mr. Cole helping you into your building, riding the elevator, entering your penthouse, and spending the night on your couch. Nothing more." "There are cameras in my apartment?" Victoria's voice rose slightly. "I didn't authorize—" "You have security cameras in your common areas," Brennan said gently. "You installed them yourself 2 years ago after the break-in scare, remember?" She blinked. "Oh, right." The third woman, Victoria's assistant Karen, Ethan realized, touched her boss's shoulder. "Do you want to do this?" "We can leave." Victoria took a shaky breath. "No, I need to see it." Winters dimmed the lights and started the video. The lobby footage played first. Ethan watched Victoria watching herself being half-carried through the entrance. Her face went pale as she saw how impaired she'd been, how completely unable to function. "I was that drunk?" she whispered. "Yes, ma'am," Ethan said quietly. The elevator footage showed her leaning against the wall, eyes barely open. Showed Ethan maintaining his distance until she stumbled and he caught her. Then the hallway. The struggle with the key card. Both of them disappearing into the penthouse. The video switched to the interior camera. Living room angle, showing the couch and part of the entryway. Timestamp, 11:02 p.m. Ethan and Victoria entered the frame. He was supporting most of her weight. She was mumbling something inaudible. "Let's get you to bed," Video Ethan said. They moved out of frame toward the bedroom hallway. Timestamp, 11:09 p.m. Ethan returned alone. He stood in the living room for a moment, running both hands through his hair. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, put it away, sat down on the couch. Just sat there. At 11:14, he checked his phone again, put it on the coffee table, leaned back against the couch, and closed his eyes. Winters fast-forwarded through the next 30 minutes. The timestamp sped past while Video Ethan remained motionless on the couch. At normal speed again, 11:47 p.m. Ethan shifted positions, lying down on his side. Still fully clothed, shoes still on, fast forward again. Hours compressed into seconds. Ethan didn't move except for normal sleeping shifts. Never got up. Never approached the bedroom hallway. Never did anything except sleep on an uncomfortable couch. 6:18 a.m. Ethan woke with a start, sat up, looked around in obvious confusion, ran a hand through his hair, stood, grabbed his jacket from the couch arm, and left. The video ended. The conference room was silent except for the hum of the laptop. Victoria stared at the blank screen with tears streaming down her face. She didn't wipe them away, didn't acknowledge them, just sat there with her hands still folded on the table. "I accused you," she said finally, voice breaking. "I destroyed your life over something that never happened." "You were scared," Ethan said. "You woke up confused. I understand." "No." She shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand. I didn't just think something bad happened. I told people it did. I filed a police report. I let them fire you. I let them—" She covered her face with both hands. "What have I done?" Brennan put a hand on her shoulder. "Victoria, you were the victim of a traumatic situation. I wasn't a victim." Her voice cracked. "Nothing happened to me. But I made him a victim. I made his daughter a victim." She looked at Ethan with devastated eyes. "You have a daughter. I remembered that. And I still—" "You didn't know," Ethan said. "I should have known. I should have trusted that if I asked someone to stay, I asked for a reason. Victoria's breathing was coming fast now, panicked. I should have fought for the truth instead of assuming the worst. Karen wrapped an arm around Victoria's shoulders. Breathe. You need to breathe. How do I fix this? Victoria asked. Not to her attorney or her assistant, but to Ethan directly. How do I possibly fix what I've done to you? Tell the truth, Ethan said simply. Publicly. Tell everyone what this footage shows. Brennan started to object, but Victoria cut him off. Yes, absolutely yes. We hold a press conference today, right now. We release the footage, and I tell everyone I was wrong. She stood up, wobbling slightly before Karen steadied her. I'll reinstate you immediately. Full back pay, promotion, whatever you want. I don't want a promotion, Ethan said. I just want my life back. Then I'll give it to you. I'll fix this. Winters stood as well. Ms. Hale, with all due respect, this needs to be handled carefully. A rushed press conference could make things worse. Worse? Victoria laughed, the sound brittle. How could it possibly be worse? This man is being crucified because of me. His reputation is destroyed because I couldn't remember asking him to stay. She turned to Brennan. Set up the press conference. Today. This afternoon. Victoria, please think about this. I have thought about it. For a week and a half, I've thought about nothing else. I've been terrified and angry and convinced something terrible happened to me. But the only terrible thing was what I did to someone who was just trying to help. She looked at Ethan again. I'm so sorry. Those words aren't enough, but I'm so sorry. Ethan nodded slowly. I appreciate that. We'll announce it at Meridian's headquarters, Victoria continued, her CEO persona snapping back into place. Full company attendance. I want everyone who spread those rumors to hear the truth directly from me. Ms. Hale, Winters interjected, we should coordinate our messaging. Make sure the message is simple. I was wrong. Ethan Cole is innocent. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar. Victoria's jaw set in that familiar, determined line. How's that for messaging? Brennan and Winters exchanged glances, some kind of lawyer-to-lawyer communication. We can work with that, Winters said finally. The meeting dissolved into logistics. Brennan made calls to arrange the press conference. Winters drafted a statement. Karen took notes on her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. Ethan sat quietly and watched Victoria pace the conference room, energy and purpose radiating from her now that she had a plan. This was the CEO he recognized from company meetings. Decisive, powerful, unwilling to accept obstacles. She caught him looking and stopped pacing. Can we talk? She asked. Just us, for a minute. The lawyers looked skeptical, but Ethan nodded. Sure. They stepped into the hallway, leaving the others behind. Victoria wrapped her arms around herself despite the building's warmth. I need you to understand something, she said quietly. When I woke up that morning and saw you there, I panicked. Complete irrational panic. Because the last time I woke up with someone in my apartment, she stopped, shook her head. That's not an excuse, just context. Something happened to you before, Ethan said carefully. In college. Different circumstances, but similar enough that when I couldn't remember, my brain just filled in the gaps with the worst possibility. Victoria's voice dropped to almost a whisper. That's not your fault. It's not your problem. But I wanted you to know it wasn't personal. The accusation, the fear, it came from old wounds, not anything you did. I'm sorry that happened to you. She looked at him incredulously. You're apologizing to me? After everything? Trauma is trauma. I get it. You're a better person than I am. I doubt that. They stood in the hallway for a moment, two people connected by a terrible misunderstanding, trying to find their way back to solid ground. My daughter asked me this morning when people would know I didn't do anything wrong, Ethan said. I told her soon. Victoria's expression crumpled. She knows about the accusations? Kids at school, parents who don't want her around their children anymore. Ethan's voice stayed steady, but his hands clenched. She got uninvited from a birthday party because of me. Because of me, Victoria corrected. This is all because of me. We can argue about blame later. Right now, I just want it over. It will be. I promise you, by the end of today, everyone will know the truth. The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m. at Meridian Solutions headquarters. Ethan spent the afternoon with Maya, trying to pretend everything was normal, while his phone exploded with notifications about the emergency announcement Meridian was holding. Speculation ran wild online. Some thought Victoria was doubling down on the accusations. Others predicted a lawsuit announcement. A very few, wondered if maybe the story wasn't what everyone thought. At 3:30, Sarah Winters picked him up. "You ready for this?" she asked as they drove toward downtown. "No, but let's do it anyway." The Meridian building was surrounded by news vans. Reporters clustered around the entrance, cameras ready. Ethan's stomach twisted as Winters pulled into the parking garage. "We're going in the back way," she said. "Victoria wants you on a stage when she makes the announcement." "I don't need to be on stage." "Yes, you do. The visual matters. You standing there while she admits she was wrong. It reinforces the narrative shift." They took a service elevator to the main conference hall on the 3rd floor. The room was packed, employees filling every chair, standing along the walls, crowding the doorway. Ethan recognized faces from his time as a driver. Some looked away when they saw him. Others stared with open curiosity. Marcus caught his eye and nodded once. Solidarity, maybe. Or just acknowledgement. Victoria was already on stage, conferring with Brennan and a woman Ethan recognized as the head of PR. She looked composed now, professional, every inch the powerful executive. When she spotted Ethan, she walked over. "Thank you for being here," she said. "Where else would I be?" "Anywhere. You could have told me to handle this myself. You had every right." "That's not who I am." Something shifted in her expression. Respect, maybe, or something deeper. "No, it's really not." At exactly 4 p.m., the PR director stepped to the podium. "Thank you all for coming, Ms. Hale has an important announcement to make regarding recent events." Victoria took the podium. The room went silent. 10 days ago, she began, her voice clear and strong, "I made a terrible mistake. I accused a good man of doing something terrible because I was scared and confused and couldn't remember a night when I'd had too much to drink." She paused. "I was wrong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. "Ethan Cole did nothing but help me get home safely when I was in no condition to do it myself. He stayed in my apartment because I asked him to, because I was scared to be alone. He fell asleep on my couch, and when he woke up the next morning, he left. That's all that happened." The murmurs grew louder. "I have security footage from that night that proves every word I just said. Mr. Cole has been telling the truth from the beginning, and her voice cracked slightly. "I didn't believe him. I let my fear override the facts, and in doing so, I destroyed his reputation, cost him his job, and subjected him and his daughter to harassment and threats." Victoria gripped the podium. "There is no excuse for what I did, but I can try to make it right. Effective immediately, Ethan Cole is reinstated to Meridian Solutions with full back pay and benefits. Additionally, I'm creating a new position, Director of Ethics and Employee Advocacy, and offering it to Mr. Cole should he choose to accept it." The crowd erupted in shocked conversation. Victoria held up a hand for silence. "Furthermore, anyone in this company who spread false rumors, who participated in the harassment of Mr. Cole, or who failed to uphold our stated values of integrity and fairness will be held accountable. HR will be conducting a full review, and disciplinary action will be taken where appropriate." She stepped back from the podium, then gestured for Ethan to join her. He walked onto the stage on legs that felt disconnected from his body. The crowd was a blur of faces, some shocked, some guilty, some angry. Victoria turned to him directly. "I'm sorry," she said, loud enough for the microphones to catch, "for what I put you through, for not fighting harder for the truth, for letting fear make my decisions." Ethan took a breath. "I accept your apology." The room exploded with questions from reporters, but Victoria ignored them, turning back to the podium. "The full footage will be released to the media within the hour. You'll all be able to see exactly what happened that night, and I hope," she looked out at the assembled employees, "that we all learn something from this. About rush to judgment, about believing accusations without evidence, about the damage we can do when we prioritize narrative over truth." She stepped away from the podium and the PR director took over, fielding questions while Victoria and Ethan were ushered off stage by security. In the hallway behind the conference room, away from cameras and crowds, Victoria leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. "That was harder than any board presentation I've ever given." "You did good," Ethan said. "I did the bare minimum of what was required after ruining your life. You told the truth. That's more than most people do." She opened her eyes. "The job offer is real. Director of Ethics. You'd be reporting directly to me, overseeing workplace culture, handling complaints, making sure something like this never happens again. I'm a driver. I don't have experience. You have integrity. You have perspective. You understand what it's like to be powerless in a system designed to protect people like me." Victoria pushed off the wall. "Think about it. No pressure. Your old position is there if you want it, or the new one if you don't." Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. "Watching the news, proud of you. Maya is asking when you're coming home." "I need to get back to my daughter," he said. "Of course." Victoria nodded. "Take tomorrow off. Take the whole week. We'll sort out the details later." Sarah Winters appeared with a wide smile. "The footage is everywhere, already trending. Hashtag Hail Justice has been replaced with hashtag Justice for Ethan." She showed him her phone, where comments were pouring in. "Finally, the truth comes out. This man deserves better than an apology. Everyone who attacked him should be ashamed." It was vindicating and hollow at the same time. The truth was out, but the damage remained. The people who'd called him a predator weren't going to issue individual apologies. The death threats wouldn't be investigated. Maya was still uninvited from that birthday party, but it was over. The worst of it was finally over. Winters drove him home through rush hour traffic. The radio was playing the press conference audio, clips of Victoria's apology alternating with commentary. "You're a hero to a lot of people right now," Winters said. "I'm just tired." "You're allowed to be both." At his apartment, Maya was doing homework at the kitchen table while Mrs. Chen prepared dinner. Maya looked up when he walked in, eyes wide. "Daddy, Mrs. Chen showed me the news. Everyone knows you didn't do it." Ethan scooped her up, holding her tight. "Yeah, baby girl. Everyone knows now." "Does that mean I can go to Keisha's party?" "I don't know. Maybe." "Can you go back to work?" "Yes. They gave me my job back." Maya pulled away to look at his face. "Are you happy?" Was he? Ethan took inventory of himself, exhausted, relieved, still angry about the last week and a half, still processing everything that had happened. "Getting there," he said finally. "Yeah, I think I'm getting there." Mrs. Chen served dinner and left them alone. Ethan and Maya ate together like they had 1,000 times before, but something felt different now. Lighter. Like a weight he hadn't fully realized he was carrying had finally been lifted. After Maya was in bed, Ethan sat on the couch, his own couch, in his own apartment, and let himself feel it all. The relief, the anger, the bone-deep exhaustion, the strange hollowness of vindication. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Drinks tomorrow? My treat. We need to celebrate you not being a criminal." Another from an unknown number that turned out to be Karen, Victoria's assistant. "Ms. Hale asked me to send her personal number. She'd like to talk when you're ready." And one from Sarah Winters. "You did it. Against everything stacked against you, you told the truth and won. Not many people can say that." Ethan stared at the messages for a long time. He'd won, technically. His name was cleared, his job restored. The truth revealed. But winning didn't erase the damage, didn't undo the terror Maya had felt, didn't give him back the sleep he'd lost or the faith in humanity that had been shaken. Still, he thought about what he'd told Maya 1,000 times. Always help others, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He'd done that. And somehow, against everything, it had mattered. Ethan saved Victoria's number without using it, responded to Marcus with a tentative yes, and thanked Winters for everything. Then he turned off his phone, turned off the lights, and finally, let himself rest. The rest didn't last long. Ethan woke at 3 a.m. to his phone vibrating across the nightstand with incoming messages. He'd forgotten to turn it off completely. Through bleary eyes, he saw dozens of notifications, news alerts, social media mentions, texts from numbers he didn't recognize. Most were supportive now. Apologies from people who'd condemned him, congratulations on his vindication, a few job offers from companies who'd seen the press conference. But scattered among them were the holdouts, the people who'd invested so heavily in his guilt that the truth couldn't penetrate. Footage can be faked, but rich people always get away with it. He probably paid her off to recant. Ethan deleted those without reading past the first line. There would always be people who preferred their version of events to reality. He couldn't fix that. What he could fix was getting more sleep. He silenced the phone and managed another few hours before Maya's alarm went off. Morning felt different, lighter somehow. Maya was chattier than usual over breakfast, excited that everyone knows Daddy's a good guy now. Mrs. Chen stopped by with fresh bread and an actual smile instead of worried sympathy. "The whole building's talking about it," she said. "Mr. Kim at the corner store wants to give you a free coffee. Says he feels terrible about how he acted." "He doesn't need to do that. Let people make amends how they can, Ethan. It helps them feel less guilty." After dropping Maya at school, where several parents actually made eye contact and one even waved, Ethan drove to Meridian Solutions for the first time in almost 2 weeks. The security guard at the entrance did a double take when Ethan pulled up. "Mr. Cole, welcome back. I'll need to issue you a new badge. Your old one was deactivated when—" He stopped, face flushing. "I'll get you a new one." "Thanks, Jerome. And sir, I'm sorry about everything. We all should have. It's okay. It's not. But I appreciate you saying so." The new badge felt heavier than the old one, though that was probably Ethan's imagination. He clipped it to his belt and headed inside. The lobby was busy with morning arrivals. Conversations died as he walked past. Some people nodded. Others looked away, shame written across their faces. A few stared with open curiosity, like he was a museum exhibit. Marcus intercepted him near the elevators. "Man, you've got guts coming back here. Didn't have much choice. Bills don't pay themselves." "Fair." Marcus hit the elevator button. "Things have been weird since the press conference. HR's been interviewing everyone who spread rumors. 3 people got fired yesterday." "Fired?" Victoria wasn't playing around about accountability. Anyone who actively participated in the harassment is gone. The elevator arrived and they stepped in. "There's a company-wide meeting at 10, mandatory attendance. Word is she's laying down new policies about gossip and false accusations." "Sounds like her." "You talked to her yet? Since yesterday?" "Not yet." The elevator stopped on the driver's floor, Ethan's old floor, though apparently not anymore. "You getting out here?" Marcus asked. "I don't actually know where I'm supposed to go." "Right, the new job. Director of something?" "Ethics and employee advocacy." Marcus whistled low. "From driver to director. That's one hell of a promotion." "I haven't accepted it yet." "You gonna?" Ethan shrugged. "Haven't decided." They rode up 3 more floors to executive territory. Ethan had only been up here once before, delivering documents to Victoria's office. The decor shifted from functional to expensive, real art on the walls, carpeting that looked like it cost more than his car. A woman Ethan didn't recognize met them as the elevator opened. "Mr. Cole? I'm Jennifer Park, Miss Hale's new executive assistant. She's expecting you." Karen's been promoted to VP of Operations. "This way, please." She led him down a hallway lined with conference rooms, each with glass walls that made the whole floor feel uncomfortably transparent. Employees looked up as he passed, some waving, most just watching. Victoria's office occupied the corner with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The door was open. She stood at her desk, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing sharply while she talked. "I don't care what the board thinks, Richard. This is happening. If they want to challenge it, they can call me directly." She spotted Ethan and held up one finger. "I have to go." "Yes. Fine. Goodbye." She hung up and immediately crossed to shake his hand. The gesture felt formal, professional, nothing like the emotional vulnerability from yesterday. "Ethan, thanks for coming in." "Not like I had other plans." A small smile. "How's Maya?" "Good. Happy her dad's not a criminal." "I can't imagine what this has been like for her." Victoria gestured to the chairs facing her desk. "Sit, please. We have a lot to discuss." They sat. Victoria pulled out a folder thick with documents. "First things first, Your reinstatement is official. HR has processed all the paperwork. You're receiving full back pay for the time you were suspended, plus an additional compensation package for the distress this caused. Your lawyer can review the details. That's generous. It's inadequate, but it's what legal would approve. She slid the folder across. The Director of Ethics position is also official. I've outlined the responsibilities, salary, benefits. It's a significant increase from your previous role. Ethan opened the folder and tried not to react to the salary number. It was more than double what he'd been making as a driver. Enough to move to a better apartment, enough to start a college fund for Maya, enough to breathe. This is too much, he said. It's appropriate for the position. The role reports directly to me and sits on the executive leadership team. You'll be overseeing all employee relations, developing ethics training programs, investigating workplace complaints, and serving as an advocate for employees who feel they have no voice. I'm not qualified for that. You're the most qualified person I know. Victoria leaned forward. You understand what it's like to be powerless in a system designed to protect people at the top. You understand integrity in a way most executives have forgotten. That's exactly what this company needs. I was a driver 2 weeks ago. And you're a director now. If you want to be. She paused. I know it's a lot. Take time to think about it. The position will be here when you're ready. And if I'm not ready, if I just want my old job back, then that's yours too. No judgment either way. Victoria's phone buzzed, but she ignored it. There's something else. The company-wide meeting at 10. I'd like you there, on stage with me. Ethan's stomach clenched. Why? Because I'm implementing new policies, and I want everyone to understand why. Having you there, the person they wronged, makes it real. Makes it impossible to dismiss as corporate rhetoric. You want to use me as a prop. I want to use you as proof that we can do better. She met his eyes steadily. But if you're not comfortable, I understand. I've asked enough of you already. Ethan thought about Maya, about teaching her that speaking up mattered, about showing her that sometimes the hard thing was also the right thing. Okay, he said, I'll be there. The relief on Victoria's face was unmistakable. Thank you. They spent the next hour going over logistics. Victoria explained the new policies she was implementing: mandatory training on workplace harassment, a confidential reporting system, strict consequences for spreading unverified rumors. It was comprehensive and clearly designed to prevent exactly what had happened to Ethan. The board thinks I'm overreacting, Victoria said. They want to sweep this under the rug and move on, but I can't. She stopped herself. What happened to you happened because we created a culture where gossip mattered more than facts, where power protected power and everyone else was expendable. That has to change. Change is hard in places like this. Then it'll be hard, but it's happening anyway. Her jaw set in that determined line. Starting with this meeting. At 9:45, Jennifer appeared in the doorway. Ms. Hale, they're ready for you in the auditorium. The auditorium was actually the converted cafeteria on the first floor. Rows of chairs faced a makeshift stage. Every seat was filled, with more people standing along the walls. Ethan estimated close to 300 employees packed into the space. A podium stood center stage with 2 chairs behind it. Victoria headed straight for the podium while Ethan took one of the chairs, feeling every eye in the room track his movement. Marcus gave him a thumbs up from the 3rd row. A few other drivers nodded. Most people just stared. Victoria tapped the microphone. Thank you all for coming. I know mandatory meetings aren't anyone's favorite way to start the day, but this is important. She launched into it without preamble. The false accusations against Ethan, the rush to judgment, the failure of leadership, including herself, to demand evidence before condemning someone. We failed, she said bluntly. As a company, as colleagues, as human beings. We took rumors and turned them into truth. We harassed a good man and his child because it was easier than questioning the narrative. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. So things are changing. Effective immediately, we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for workplace harassment and the spread of unverified rumors. Anyone found to be participating in gossip that damages a colleague's reputation will face disciplinary action up to and including termination. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I know some of you think this is an overreaction. I've heard the feedback. But here's what I want you to understand. Victoria gestured to Ethan. Mister, Cole is sitting here today because security footage proved his innocence. But what if there had been no cameras? What if we'd relied solely on accusations and assumptions? The room went silent. An innocent man would have been destroyed. His daughter would have suffered. And all of you, everyone who participated in spreading those rumors, would have been complicit in ruining a life. She paused. That can't happen again. I won't allow it. Victoria outlined the new policies in detail. Anonymous reporting system, third-party investigations for all complaints, mandatory training sessions, quarterly ethics reviews. I'm also creating a new executive position, Director of Ethics and Employee Advocacy. This person will report directly to me and serve as a resource for any employee who feels they're being treated unfairly. She looked at Ethan. Mr. Cole has been offered this position, though he's still considering it. That caused another wave of murmurs. Ethan heard fragments of conversations. From driver to director? After what we did to him? He's actually coming back? Victoria raised her hand for silence. I want to be clear about something. Mr. Cole doesn't owe this company anything. He was wronged in the worst possible way, but he's here anyway trying to help make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. That's the kind of integrity we should all aspire to. She stepped back from the podium. That's everything I have prepared. But I think Mr. Cole might have something to say, if he's willing. Every head swiveled toward Ethan. He hadn't prepared anything, hadn't expected to speak. But Victoria was looking at him with an expression that said she trusted him to handle this. Ethan stood and approached the podium on legs that felt unsteady. 300 faces stared back at him. Some guilty, some curious, some openly hostile. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, he started. I'm not good at speeches. I'm just a guy who drives cars. Or drove cars. I don't know what I am anymore. A few uncomfortable laughs. What happened to me was terrible. I won't pretend it wasn't. I got suspended, fired, investigated by police. My daughter got bullied. I got death threats. All because I tried to help someone who needed help. The guilt on people's faces intensified. But here's the thing. I don't blame most of you, not really. Ethan gripped the podium. You heard a story. A powerful story about a powerful woman being hurt by someone who had access to her when she was vulnerable. That story made sense. It fit a pattern everyone recognizes. So you believed it. He could see people nodding, relieved to be understood. The problem is you believed it without questioning it, without asking for evidence or hearing my side, or considering that maybe, just maybe, the truth was more complicated than the headline. His voice hardened slightly. You believed it because it was easier, because it felt right, because nobody wants to think they're the kind of person who ruins someone's life over gossip. The nods stopped. But that's exactly what happened. Good people, people with families and mortgages and problems of their own, participated in destroying me because they didn't stop to think about what they were doing. Ethan paused. So if you take anything from this, take this. Words matter. Accusations matter. Before you repeat something you heard, before you judge someone based on rumors, stop and ask yourself, do I actually know this is true? Have I seen evidence? Or am I just repeating what everyone else is saying? The room was dead silent. I'm accepting the director position, Ethan said, surprising himself. Not because I want power or revenge or anything like that, but because if I can help even one person avoid what I went through, it's worth it. He stepped away from the podium. The applause started slowly. A few people in the front rows, then built until the whole room was clapping. Some people stood. Not everyone, but enough. Ethan returned to his chair while Victoria wrapped up the meeting with logistical details about the new policies. He barely heard any of it. His heart was pounding, adrenaline making his hands shake. He'd just accepted the job, just committed to staying at the company that had destroyed him. Was that brave or stupid? He honestly couldn't tell. After the meeting, people lined up to talk to him. Some offered genuine apologies. Others made excuses wrapped in apologies. A few just shook his hand without saying anything, their shame too heavy for words. Marcus waited until the crowd thinned. That was a hell of a speech, man. I didn't plan it. The best ones never are. He clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Drinks are still happening tonight, by the way. You earned a celebration. I'll try to make it. Rivera approached next, the operations head who'd asked Ethan to drive Victoria home that night. He He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Cole, I owe you an apology. You were just doing your job. I was covering my ass. There's a difference. Rivera's jaw worked. I knew you were solid, known it for 3 years, but when the accusations came, I didn't defend you, didn't even question them, just let HR do their thing and told myself it wasn't my problem. It wasn't your problem. The hell it wasn't. You were my employee, my responsibility, and I threw you under the bus to protect myself and the company. He stuck out his hand. I'm sorry. That doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Ethan shook his hand. I appreciate it. After Rivera left, Victoria appeared at his elbow. You need a break. Come on. She led him back to her office and closed the door behind them. The sudden silence after the auditorium's noise felt jarring. You accepted the position, she said. Seemed like the right move. Was it? Ethan sank into one of the chairs. Ask me in 6 months. Victoria smiled slightly. Fair enough. We'll get you set up with an office, assistant, whatever you need. Jennifer will coordinate everything. I don't need an assistant. You do if you're going to do this job properly. Trust me. She sat in the chair next to him instead of behind her desk. Less boss, more colleague. How are you really doing? Not the brave face you showed everyone downstairs. Actually, honestly, I don't know. Part of me feels vindicated. Part of me is still angry, and part of me just wants to take Maya and disappear somewhere nobody knows what happened. That's understandable. But I can't do that, because she's watching, learning from how I handle this. Ethan rubbed his face. So I have to be the example. Show her that you don't run from hard things. You face them. Even when facing them means working alongside people who tried to destroy you? Especially then. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I'm trying to figure out if you're incredibly strong or incredibly foolish. Can't it be both? That got a real laugh out of her. I suppose it can. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and grimaced. Board meeting in 10 minutes. They're going to grill me about the new policies. Good luck with that. I don't need luck. I have facts and moral high ground. They can complain all they want, but they know I'm right. She stood. Take the rest of the day. Go spend time with your daughter. Monday's soon enough to start saving the company's soul. Ethan left Meridian feeling stranger than when he'd arrived. He had his job back. Actually, he had a better job. The truth was public. His name was cleared. So why did everything still feel so unfinished? He picked Maya up early from school, claiming a special occasion. She was thrilled, chattering the whole way home about a science experiment involving magnets. And then Jacob's magnet stuck to Aiden's braces and everyone laughed. But Ms. Rodriguez said that's actually really interesting scientifically because, Maya, hold on. Ethan pulled into their apartment parking lot. I need to tell you something. Her expression shifted to worry. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Actually, things are good. I got a new job. A better one. You're not driving cars anymore? Nope. Now I'm going to help people at the company when they have problems. Maya considered this. Like when I help kids on the playground when they're sad? Exactly like that, but with adults. Adults need help too? More than you'd think. She nodded sagely. That's a good job, Daddy. You're good at helping people. The simple faith in her voice cracked something open in his chest. Thanks, baby girl. They spent the afternoon at the park, the same one where that jogger had recognized him and posted about it. This time, nobody stared. Nobody whispered. They were just another father and daughter on the swings. Maya talked about Keisha's birthday party, wondering if maybe the invitation might come back now that everyone knew Ethan hadn't done anything wrong. Maybe, Ethan said, though he doubted it. Some bridges, once burned, stayed burned. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Cole, this is Amanda Torres. My daughter Keisha is in Maya's class. Ethan's grip on the phone tightened. Yes, I know who you are. I wanted to apologize for uninviting Maya to the party. I saw the press conference, and I feel terrible about my assumptions. Okay. The party's this Saturday. Maya is welcome to come, more than welcome. I'd really like her there. Ethan looked at Maya, pumping her legs to go higher on the swings, completely unaware of the conversation. I'll ask her, he said. She might not want to come anymore. I understand, but I hope she does. And Mr. Cole, I'm truly sorry. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt. After she hung up, Ethan pushed Maya's swing a few more times before asking, "Hey, what if Keisha's party invitation came back? Would you still want to go?" Maya dragged her feet to slow down. "Did it come back?" "Yeah, her mom just called." "Oh." Maya thought about it with the seriousness of a judge deliberating. "I think yes, Keisha didn't uninvite me. Her mom did. And Keisha's my friend." "You're a smart kid, you know that?" "Yep." They stayed at the park until the sun started setting, then headed home for dinner. Ethan made spaghetti. Actually made it properly this time, not burned or forgotten. They ate together, and Maya told him about all the things she wanted to do this weekend. After she was in bed, Ethan sat on the couch with his laptop and looked at the news coverage from the press conference. The footage had gone viral, millions of views across various platforms. The narrative had flipped completely. Man falsely accused shows incredible grace. CEO admits wrongdoing in rare public apology. Company driver becomes ethics director after vindication. It was strange seeing himself characterized as heroic. He didn't feel heroic. He felt tired and uncertain and still processing everything. A text came through from Victoria. "Board approved the new policies, barely, but approved. Thanks for your speech today, it helped." Ethan typed back, "Just told the truth." "That's rarer than it should be." He set down his phone and stared at the ceiling. In 2 weeks, his entire life had been destroyed and rebuilt. He'd lost everything and somehow gained more than he'd started with. But the cost lingered. The memory of those accusations, the fear in Maya's voice when she asked if he'd done something bad, the messages from strangers calling him a monster. That didn't just disappear because the truth came out. Still, sitting in his apartment with his daughter sleeping safely down the hall and a job that might actually let him make a difference, Ethan felt something shift. Not quite peace. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. His phone buzzed again. "Marcus. You coming tonight or what? We're at O'Malley's. First round's on me." Ethan looked at the clock. 8:30 p.m. He could call Mrs. Chen, ask her to listen for Maya, could join his friends and let them buy him drinks, and celebrate the fact that justice, for once, had actually worked. He typed back, "Be there in 30. Because maybe that was part of moving forward, letting people make amends. Accepting that some relationships could be repaired even after being broken. He changed into clean clothes, called Mrs. Chen, and headed out into the night. O'Malley's was crowded with the after-work crowd. Marcus had claimed a table near the back and waved him over. 3 other drivers were there, people Ethan had worked with for years. "There he is." Marcus stood and pulled Ethan into a hug. "The man who made fools of us all." "I didn't make you do anything." "Fair point. We managed that ourselves." Marcus pushed a beer across the table. "This one's yours. Next 5 are also yours." They spent 2 hours drinking and talking and not talking about the elephant in the room until finally David, one of the older drivers, brought it up. "I'm sorry, Cole. I'm sorry I believed the worst without asking questions." The table went quiet. "I'm sorry too," another driver added. "I spread some of those rumors, thought I was being helpful, warning people, but I was just making it worse." One by one, they apologized. Some eloquently, some stumbling through it, but all genuine. Ethan listened to each one and accepted them. What else could he do? Hold grudges? Stay angry? That wouldn't change what had happened, and it wouldn't make the future any easier. "I appreciate it," he said when they'd all finished. "Really, and for what it's worth, I get it. The story made sense. Someone in power gets hurt. You want to believe the victim. That's not wrong. It was just wrong this time." "Doesn't make it okay," Marcus said. "No, but it makes it human." Ethan took a long drink of his beer. "We all make mistakes. The question is what we do after." They drank to that, and the conversation gradually shifted to lighter topics. Sports, weekend plans, complaints about management, normal things. The kind of easy camaraderie that came from shared experience. Ethan left around 11, declining offers for another round. He was pleasantly buzzed, not drunk, and the walk back to his apartment in the cool night air felt good. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him look. Hi, Ethan. This is Victoria. I know we've been texting through official channels, but I wanted to reach out personally. I hope that's okay. He stared at the message for a long moment before typing back, "It's fine. What's up?" "Nothing urgent. I just wanted to check in, see how you're really doing, not the professional version." Ethan leaned against a building wall, considering his answer. "I'm okay. Getting there. Some days are harder than others." "That makes sense. For what it's worth, I'm struggling too, with guilt mostly, and trying to figure out how to be the person who deserves a second chance." "You told the truth when it mattered. That counts for something." "Does it count enough?" "I don't know. Ask me in 6 months." There was a long pause before her next message. "That's fair. Good night, Ethan." "Good night." He pocketed his phone and continued home, thinking about second chances and forgiveness, and whether some wounds ever fully healed. Mrs. Chen was asleep on his couch when he arrived. He covered her with a blanket and checked on Maya, who was sprawled across her bed with Mr. Bear clutched tight. Everything was okay. Not perfect. Not undamaged, but okay. And for tonight, that was enough. Monday morning arrived with rain and the kind of nervous energy that came from starting something completely new. Ethan stood outside Meridian Solutions at 7:45 a.m., coffee in hand, staring up at the building that had been both his livelihood and his destruction. His new office was on the 8th floor, executive territory, a place he'd only ever visited to deliver packages or drive someone to their next meeting. Now he belonged there, supposedly. "You going in or just planning to get soaked?" Ethan turned to find Victoria standing behind him, umbrella in hand, looking like she'd been awake for hours despite the early time. "Just thinking," he said. "About?" "Whether I'm making a huge mistake." She smiled slightly. "If it helps, I ask myself that every morning. Still haven't found an answer." They walked in together through security, into an elevator that filled up with other early arrivals. People recognized both of them now, the CEO, who'd admitted she was wrong, and the man she'd wronged. Some nodded respectfully. Others pretended to be very interested in their phones. On the 8th floor, Victoria led him down a hallway to an office with his name already on the door. Ethan Cole, Director of Ethics and Employee Advocacy. The letters looked official and completely surreal. Inside was a desk, a computer, bookshelves waiting to be filled, and windows overlooking the city. It was twice the size of the apartment he'd lived in during college. "Jennifer set everything up over the weekend," Victoria said. "Your computer's ready, emails active, calendar's synced. She'll be by at 8 to go over your schedule." "I have a schedule?" "You're an executive now. Everything's scheduled." She leaned against the doorframe. "First meeting is at 9. Department heads. They'll want to understand what your role entails and how it affects their operations." Ethan set his coffee on the desk, still processing the fact that this was his desk. "What do I tell them?" "The truth. That you're here to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. That you're an advocate for employees who feel they have no power. That integrity matters more than convenience. And if they push back, then you push harder. You report to me, Ethan, not them. They don't get a vote in whether this position exists." She checked her watch. "I have to run, but call if you need anything. Jennifer knows how to reach me." After she left, Ethan sat in his new chair, expensive, ergonomic, nothing like the driver's seat he was used to, and tried to figure out what he was supposed to do for the next hour. His email was already full. Welcome messages from HR, IT setup instructions, meeting invitations, policy documents to review. The sheer volume was overwhelming. A knock on the door. Jennifer Park appeared with a tablet and an efficient smile. "Good morning, Mr. Cole. Ready to dive in?" "As ready as I'll ever be." She spent the next 45 minutes walking him through systems, protocols, and expectations. Who to contact for what, how to navigate the corporate calendar, what resources he had access to. It was like learning a new language. "Any questions before your 9 o'clock?" Jennifer asked. "About 1,000, but none I can articulate right now." "That's normal. First week is always overwhelming. You'll find your rhythm." She headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Mr. Cole, I'm glad you took this job. The company needs someone who actually gives a damn about doing the right thing." The department head meeting was held in a conference room that probably cost more to furnish than Ethan made in a year as a driver. 12 executives sat around a massive table, most looking skeptical about his presence. Ethan recognized a few faces. Others were strangers who'd clearly heard about him, but never bothered to learn his name until now. Victoria opened the meeting. "I'm sure you've all met Ethan Cole, our new Director of Ethics and Employee Advocacy. Ethan, why don't you explain your role?" 12 pairs of eyes focused on him, some curious, some hostile, all evaluating whether he belonged in this room. "My job," Ethan started, "is to make sure employees have someone to turn to when they're being treated unfairly, to investigate complaints impartially, to develop training that prevents the kind of mob mentality that almost destroyed my life." "With all due respect," interrupted a man Ethan didn't recognize, "isn't this position redundant with HR?" "HR protects the company," Ethan said. "I protect the employees. There's a difference. HR is designed to be impartial. HR fired me based on accusations without evidence because it was easier than doing a real investigation. So no, I don't think they're equipped to handle this alone." Uncomfortable silence. The head of operations, a woman named Patricia Chen, spoke up. "What kind of authority does this position have? Can you override departmental decisions?" "I can recommend actions to Ms. Hale. She makes final calls." "So you're essentially Victoria's spy." "I'm essentially someone who gives a damn whether employees are treated fairly." Ethan met her eyes steadily. "If that threatens you, maybe you should ask yourself why." Patricia's expression tightened, but she didn't respond. The meeting continued with questions about process, jurisdiction, reporting structures. Ethan answered what he could and admitted when he didn't know something. By the end, half the room seemed cautiously accepting. The other half looked like they were already planning how to undermine him. After everyone filed out, Victoria lingered. "That went better than expected," she said. "Half of them hate me." "Only half? I'm impressed. Usually executive meetings end with at least 70% mutual loathing." She gathered her notes. "Patricia will be a problem. She doesn't like oversight of any kind." "I got that impression. Don't let her intimidate you. You have my full backing." Victoria headed for the door, then stopped. "Have lunch with me later? There's something I want to discuss." "Okay." His morning filled with more meetings, more introductions, more people who didn't know whether to treat him as a colleague or the guy they'd tried to destroy 2 weeks ago. By noon, Ethan's head was pounding. Jennifer appeared with aspirin and water. "Ms. Hale's waiting in her office for lunch." Victoria had ordered from the Thai place down the street, enough food for 4 people spread across her desk. "I never know what to get, so I just order everything," she explained. "Help yourself." They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Victoria said, "I wanted to talk to you about the ethics training program. I'm thinking mandatory sessions for all employees, starting with executive leadership." "You want executives to sit through ethics training?" "I want them to sit through your ethics training, taught by you, so they understand what their actions cost." She stabbed at her pad thai. "Some of them need to look you in the eye and hear what they put you through. That's going to make me really popular." "You're not here to be popular. You're here to change the culture." Victoria set down her fork. "Look, I know this is hard, coming back here, working with people who condemned you. But you're the only person who can do this job properly. You understand both sides, what it's like to be powerless and what it's like to be vindicated. That perspective is invaluable. I just don't want to spend the next year relitigating what happened to me." "Then don't. Use it as a teaching moment, then move forward. Show them what integrity looks like in practice, not just theory." Ethan considered this. "How do I do that when half the company still thinks I got away with something?" "You prove them wrong every single day. Eventually, they'll either accept the truth or leave. Either way, the culture improves." They finished lunch talking about logistics, training schedules, budget for the new department, staffing needs. It felt almost normal, 2 colleagues planning a project. Easy to forget the complicated history between them. As Ethan stood to leave, Victoria said, "Thank you for giving this place another chance. You didn't have to. Maya needed to see that you don't run from hard things." "Is that the only reason?" Ethan paused at the door. "Ask me in 6 months." She smiled. "That's becoming our standard answer, isn't it?" The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that was exhausting but purposeful. Ethan spent his days developing training programs, investigating complaints, and learning the complex politics of corporate leadership. He sat through budget meetings and strategic planning sessions and had to remind himself constantly that he belonged in these rooms. Maya adjusted to the changes better than he did. She loved that Daddy had an office now, that he wore ties and worked at a desk. For her 8th birthday, she asked to visit his workplace and sit in his important chair. Ethan brought her in on a Saturday when the building was mostly empty. She spun around in his desk chair, declared the view pretty good, and drew him a picture of the two of them that he taped to his wall next to his degrees and certifications. "Are you happy here, Daddy?" she asked on the drive home. "Getting there, baby girl. But not all the way happy yet. It's complicated." She thought about this seriously. Miss Rodriguez says complicated just means there's more than one right answer. Miss Rodriguez is a smart teacher. I know. That's why I listened to her. The ethics training program launched 6 weeks after Ethan started. He'd spent countless hours developing the curriculum, case studies, role-playing exercises, discussions about bias and assumptions, and the damage caused by rushing to judgment. The first session was with executive leadership, 15 people who'd rather be anywhere else, forced to sit through 3 hours of training taught by the man they'd helped destroy. Ethan started with a simple question. How many of you believed I assaulted Victoria Hale? Every hand went up. Some immediately, some reluctantly. Why? The answers varied. The story made sense. Everyone else believed it. There was no reason to doubt it. Victoria seemed certain. Anyone asked to see evidence before believing? Ethan asked. Silence. Anyone consider that maybe the situation was more complicated than it appeared? More silence. Anyone defend me? Even once? Even privately? Nothing. Ethan let that sit for a moment. I'm not asking to shame you. I'm asking so we all understand how easy it is to participate in destroying someone. You're all intelligent, successful people. You've built careers on critical thinking and analysis. But when it came to my life, you didn't apply any of that. You just believed. One of the executives, the head of engineering, spoke up. In our defense, the accusation came from the CEO. That carried weight. It carried so much weight that you didn't question it. Power matters more than truth. That's the culture we're trying to change. The session went long, past the scheduled 3 hours. People asked hard questions. Some got defensive. Others admitted their mistakes openly. By the end, Ethan felt wrung out but hopeful that maybe something had shifted. Victoria stayed after everyone else left. That was brutal, she said. It needed to be. Some of them looked ready to quit. Then they should quit. If they can't handle examining their own behavior, they don't belong in leadership. She studied him. You're different than you were 6 weeks ago. How so? More confident, less apologetic about taking up space. She grabbed her bag. It's a good look on you. The training sessions continued, department by department, team by team. Ethan told his story over and over until it stopped feeling personal and started feeling like a case study. The reactions varied. Some people got it immediately. Others argued, defended themselves, refused to accept that they'd done anything wrong. But slowly, things began to change. Anonymous complaints started coming through the new reporting system. Employees who'd felt powerless suddenly had a voice. Ethan investigated each one personally, refusing to delegate the work to HR. A junior developer reported being passed over for promotion because her manager didn't think women were technical enough. Ethan dug into it, found a pattern of discrimination, and the manager was fired within a week. An administrative assistant reported sexual harassment from a senior VP. Ethan brought in outside investigators, gathered evidence, and watched the VP get escorted from the building. Word spread. The new ethics director actually did something, actually held people accountable, actually cared about fairness over politics. 3 months in, Rivera stopped by Ethan's office. Got a minute? Sure. Rivera sat down heavily. I wanted to update you on something. We're restructuring the driver department, new management, new protocols, better pay. Thought you should know. Why? Because when you were one of them, I didn't do enough to protect you. Didn't advocate for better wages or working conditions or basic respect. I was too busy managing up, keeping executives happy. He met Ethan's eyes. I'm trying to do better. That's good to hear. Marcus says the drivers want to meet with you. Talk about their concerns without worrying about retaliation. You interested? Absolutely. The meeting happened the following week in a conference room Ethan had reserved. 20 drivers showed up, his former colleagues, people who'd known him as one of them. They talked for 2 hours about everything that was wrong with their jobs. Unpredictable schedules, no sick leave, expectation to be available 24/7 without overtime pay, being treated as invisible by the people they drove. Ethan took notes and promised to bring it to Victoria. "You're really going to fight for us?" one of the younger drivers asked. "That's literally my job now." "Yeah, but you're up there now. With them. People forget where they came from." "I remember exactly where I came from," Ethan said. "I remember what it's like to worry about making rent, to choose between fixing your car and buying groceries, to be treated like you don't matter." He closed his notebook. "I'm not forgetting that just because I have a nicer office." The changes came faster than expected. Victoria approved new contracts for drivers with better pay, actual benefits, and reasonable scheduling. It cost the company more, but as she told the board, we can afford to treat people decently. Not everyone was happy about it. Patricia Chen complained that drivers were getting above themselves. The CFO grumbled about budget impacts. But the changes stuck. 6 months after taking the job, Ethan sat in his office reviewing the latest quarterly report on workplace complaints, down 40% from the previous quarter. Resolution time cut in half. Employee satisfaction scores rising. Progress. Actual, measurable progress. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Dinner tonight. Celebrate the 6-month mark." He stared at the message. They developed an easy working relationship over the months. Respect, trust, the occasional lunch to discuss strategy. But dinner felt different, more personal. He typed back, "What are we celebrating exactly?" "You not quitting, me not screwing up again. Take your pick." "Where?" "Somewhere that's not Thai food. I'll pick you up at 7. Ethan called Mrs. Chen to watch Maya, changed into something nicer than his work clothes, and tried not to think too hard about why he felt nervous. Victoria arrived exactly on time in her personal car, a sleek sedan she drove herself instead of being chauffeured. She'd changed too, trading her CEO armor for dark jeans and a sweater that made her look younger, more approachable. "Ready?" she asked. "As I'll ever be." She drove them to a quiet Italian place on the edge of downtown. Family-owned, no corporate groups, the kind of restaurant where you could actually have a conversation. They ordered wine and pasta and talked about everything except work. Maya's upcoming school play. A book Victoria was reading. The renovations happening in Ethan's building that had the whole place smelling like paint. It was easy, comfortable, almost like they were friends instead of boss and employee connected by trauma. Over dessert, Victoria finally brought up what Ethan suspected was the real reason for dinner. "I've been in therapy," she said, "since everything happened, working through a lot of things." "That's good." "My therapist asked me who I'd become if I let go of the need to control everything, if I stopped seeing vulnerability as weakness." She turned her wine glass in slow circles. "I didn't have a good answer." "Did you find one?" "Still working on it. But I think part of it involves acknowledging when I need help, when I'm wrong, when I'm scared." She looked at him directly. "You've seen me at my worst, drunk, terrified, convinced something terrible had happened, and then accusing you of causing it. We've been over this, I know, but I need you to understand something. That night, when I asked you to stay, it wasn't just because I was drunk. It was because something about you felt safe, felt trustworthy." Her voice dropped quieter. "I was right about that, even when I convinced myself I was wrong." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. The whole foundation of their relationship was built on a terrible misunderstanding that had somehow resolved into something functional. Adding more layers felt dangerous. "I'm not trying to make this weird," Victoria continued. "I just wanted you to know that I see you. Not as the driver or the victim or even the ethics director, just as Ethan. Someone who did the right thing when nobody was watching. That's all any of us should do. But most of us don't." She signaled for the check. "Anyway, 6 months down. However many more ahead. Thanks for not giving up on this place. Thanks for making it worth staying." The drive back was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Victoria dropped him off at his apartment with a simple "See you Monday" that felt heavy with things unsaid. Inside, Mrs. Chen reported that Maya had gone down easy and was sleeping soundly. "How was dinner?" she asked with a knowing look. "Just work stuff." "Mm-hmm. Work stuff that has you smiling like that." "I'm not." Ethan caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. He was smiling. "It was a good night, that's all." "Whatever you say." Mrs. Chen gathered her things. "That Victoria seems like a good woman. Smart, strong. Not perfect, but who is?" "It's not like that." "Okay, Ethan, it's not like that." "Oh," she patted his arm on her way out. Yet. The next 6 months brought more changes. The ethics department expanded to include 2 additional investigators. The training program became standard for all new hires. Complaint numbers continued dropping as people realized there were real consequences for bad behavior. Ethan settled into his role, finding confidence he didn't know he had. He spoke at industry conferences about workplace culture, published articles about ethics and accountability, became someone people quoted. Maya thrived. She made new friends at school, discovered a love for soccer, and stopped asking when Daddy would be done with the job that had caused so much trouble. And Victoria became something Ethan couldn't quite define. Not just his boss, not exactly a friend, something in between that grew more complicated with every conversation, every shared lunch, every late evening working on a difficult case together. He tried not to think about it too much, tried to maintain professional boundaries, but it was hard when she texted him about random things at midnight, when she asked his opinion on decisions that had nothing to do with his department, when she looked at him like he was someone she wanted to understand better. 1 year after the press conference, Meridian held a company-wide event to celebrate the culture changes. Ethan stood on stage next to Victoria while she presented statistics. Harassment complaints down 60%, employee retention up, workplace satisfaction scores at an all-time high. "None of this would have been possible," Victoria said into the microphone, "without someone willing to believe that people can change, that companies can change. Someone who had every reason to walk away but chose to stay and fight for something better." She turned to Ethan. "Thank you for your integrity, your persistence, your refusal to let us settle for being mediocre when we could be better." The applause was genuine this time. No guilt, no obligation, just appreciation. After the event, Victoria pulled him aside. "Walk with me?" They left the building and wandered through downtown in the early evening light. Office workers headed home, the city transitioning from day to night. "I have something to tell you," Victoria said. "The board offered me a position at our parent company. Significant promotion, more money. Based in New York." Ethan's stomach dropped. "That's great. Congratulations." "I turned it down." "What? Why?" "Because I'm not done here yet. We're making progress, but there's more work to do. And because—" She stopped walking, facing him directly. "Because leaving would mean leaving you. And I don't want to do that." Ethan stared at her. "Victoria, I know it's complicated. I know there's history and power dynamics and 1,000 reasons this is a bad idea, but I also know that every time I'm around you, I feel like I can be better than I was. Like I don't have to be perfect to be worth something." She took a breath. "So I'm asking, is there any chance you might feel the same way?" A year ago, Ethan would have said no immediately. Would have cited professionalism and appropriate boundaries and all the reasons this was impossible. But a year ago, he'd been a different person. Less sure of himself. Less willing to believe that complicated things could work out. "I feel the same way," he said quietly. "I've been trying not to, but I do." Victoria's expression shifted, relief mixed with uncertainty. "So what do we do about it?" "I have no idea." "That's not very helpful." "I'm an ethics director, not a relationship expert." He smiled slightly. "But maybe we start small, keep having dinner, keep talking, see where it goes without forcing it to be anything specific." "That's remarkably reasonable advice." "Don't sound so surprised." They stood there on a random downtown sidewalk while the city moved around them, 2 people who'd found each other through the worst circumstances imaginable and somehow ended up here. "Maya would probably have opinions," Ethan said. "Is she a tough critic?" "The toughest. She'll want to know your stance on bedtime negotiations and whether you think chocolate milk counts as a breakfast food." "What's the right answer to that second one?" "There isn't one. It's a trap." Victoria laughed, real, unguarded laughter that made her look completely different from the controlled CEO persona. I think I can handle an 8-year-old's interrogation. Don't underestimate her. She's scary smart. Wonder where she gets that. They walked back toward Meridian's building slowly, neither wanting the conversation to end. Made plans for actual dinner, not just work dinner. Agreed to take things slow and figure it out as they went. At the parking garage entrance, Victoria paused. For the record, she said, that night a year ago when I asked you to stay, I think some part of me knew even then that you were going to matter, that whatever happened, you'd end up being important. Or maybe you were just drunk and scared. Maybe. But I choose to believe it was more than that. She drove away, leaving Ethan standing in the parking garage with a smile he couldn't quite suppress. Inside, Marcus was heading out for the day. You look happy, he observed. It's been a good year. Yeah, it has. You joining us for drinks Friday? Whole driver crew wants to celebrate the new contract renewal. Wouldn't miss it. Ethan drove home through familiar streets that felt different now. The same route he'd taken 1,000 times, but his destination had changed. Not just physically, the new apartment in a better neighborhood with an extra bedroom for Maya, but emotionally. He wasn't the same person who'd fallen asleep on Victoria's couch a year ago. Wasn't even the same person who'd stood on that stage and accepted a job he didn't think he deserved. He'd become someone who understood that integrity wasn't about being perfect. It was about doing the right thing even when it was hard, even when nobody was watching, even when the cost seemed too high. At home, Maya was doing homework at the kitchen table. Different apartment, same routine. Hey, baby girl, how was school? Good. We're learning about the water cycle. Did you know that the same water dinosaurs drank is still here? I did know that, yeah. That's so cool. I'm basically drinking dinosaur water. She looked up from her worksheet. You seem happy. Do I? Yeah, different happy than usual. What happened? Ethan sat down across from her, considering how much to share. I had a good conversation with Victoria. We might start spending more time together, outside of work. Maya's eyes narrowed. Like dating? Maybe. Eventually. If that's okay with you. She considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Is she nice to you? Very nice. Does she make you laugh? Sometimes. Does she know about the green crayon rule? Ethan blinked. What? That there's a difference between forest green and regular green. That details matter. Maya tapped her pencil against her worksheet. If she doesn't get that, she won't get you. I'll make sure to explain it to her. Okay, then I guess it's fine if you date her. Maya returned to her homework. But she has to come to dinner first. I need to evaluate her. Evaluate her? You're my dad. I have to make sure she's good enough. Ethan laughed, overwhelmed by the fierce protectiveness in his 8-year-old daughter's voice. Deal. I'll arrange dinner. And Daddy? I'm proud of you. For what? For being brave. For not giving up when things were hard. For showing everyone that telling the truth matters. She looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her years. That's what you always taught me. But then you actually did it. That's the important part. Tears stung Ethan's eyes. He pulled Maya into a hug, holding her tight while she squirmed and laughed and told him he was squishing her. I love you, baby girl. I love you too, Daddy, even when you're being weird and emotional. That Friday, Ethan joined the drivers for drinks. They toasted the new contracts, complained about traffic, told stories about their worst passengers. Normal things, the kind of camaraderie that came from shared experience. Marcus pulled him aside at one point. I heard you might be dating the boss. News travels fast. Always does. For what it's worth, I think it's good. You both deserve to be happy after the nightmare you went through. Thanks, man. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't forget about us when you're having fancy executive dinners. We're still your people. Ethan looked around at the group, men and women who'd stood by him after the truth came out, who'd apologized for their mistakes, who'd welcomed him back without hesitation. I could never forget, he said. You're the ones who taught me what loyalty looks like. The dinner with Victoria and Maya happened 2 weeks later. They went to a family-style Italian place where Maya could order spaghetti and interrogate Victoria without seeming too formal. Maya asked about Victoria's favorite color, blue, Her opinion on whether homework was necessary, unfortunately yes, and her stance on the green crayon debate. She agreed that forest green was superior. By dessert, Maya had apparently decided Victoria was acceptable. "You can keep her," she whispered to Ethan while Victoria was in the bathroom. "That's not how dating works, baby girl. Still, I like her. She listens when people talk. That's important." Victoria and Ethan's relationship developed slowly over the following months. They were careful about it. No public displays at work, no favoritism. Nothing that could compromise the professional dynamic they'd built. But outside the office, they were just Ethan and Victoria. Two people learning each other's rhythms, discovering shared interests and comfortable silences, and the kind of ease that came from truly knowing someone. Victoria met Mrs. Chen, who gave her immediate approval. "She's good for you," the older woman declared. "And you're good for her. Sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances." 18 months after the press conference, Meridian Solutions won an industry award for workplace culture transformation. Victoria accepted it on stage, but immediately called Ethan up to join her. "This belongs to him," she said, handing him the trophy. "He's the one who showed us what integrity actually means, who refused to let us settle for mediocrity, who proved that one person can change an entire organization if they're willing to fight for what's right." The audience applauded. Cameras flashed. Industry leaders who'd read about their story watched with interest. Ethan held the trophy and thought about the journey that had brought him here, the terrible night that had started everything, the accusations and investigation and public destruction, the slow climb back to vindication, the choice to stay and fight instead of running. It had been worth it, all of it. Because standing here now, he wasn't just the man who'd been falsely accused. He was the man who'd turned that injustice into purpose, who'd used his experience to help others, who'd shown that doing the right thing mattered even when, especially when, nobody was watching. Later that night, at the celebration dinner, Victoria raised her glass. "To Ethan, for teaching me what real courage looks like, for not giving up on people even when they didn't deserve it, for being exactly who you are, no apologies." Ethan raised his glass in return. "To second chances, to truth mattering more than convenience, to building something better than what came before." Their glasses clinked. Around them, colleagues and friends celebrated. Maya sat at a nearby table with Mrs. Chen, talking animatedly about the award ceremony. Everything wasn't perfect. There were still people at Meridian who resented the changes, still complaints to investigate and problems to solve, still days when the memories of that terrible time came back sharp and painful. But there was also this: progress, purpose. People who cared about doing the right thing, a daughter who'd learned that integrity mattered more than popularity, a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine affection, a job that let him make a real difference. Victoria leaned closer. "What are you thinking about?" "That a year and a half ago, I was sitting on your couch wondering if my life was over. And now," he looked around at everything they'd built. "Now I'm here." "Any regrets?" Ethan thought about that seriously. The pain, the fear, the damage that had been done. The easy answer was yes. Of course he regretted it. Who wouldn't? But the more complicated truth was that those terrible weeks had led him here, had forced him to discover strength he didn't know he had connected him to people he might never have met, had given him purpose beyond just surviving. "No," he said finally. "No regrets. It was awful, but it mattered. It changed things. Changed me." "Changed me too," Victoria said quietly. "Made me face things I'd been avoiding for years. Made me realize that being vulnerable isn't the same as being weak." "That's very profound for someone who's had 3 glasses of wine." She laughed and pushed his shoulder. "I'm serious." "I know. I am too." They sat together while the celebration continued around them. Two people who'd found each other in the worst possible way and somehow made it into something good. Because that's what life was, Ethan had learned. Not about avoiding hardship, but about what you did with it, whether you let it break you or used it to build something better. He'd chosen to build. And looking around at everything that choice had created, he knew it was the right decision. Maya appeared at his elbow. "Can we go home soon? I'm tired." "Yeah, baby girl, let's go home." Home to the apartment that was nicer than anything they'd had before, but still filled with the same love and laughter. Home to a life that had been shattered and rebuilt stronger. Home to a future that was uncertain but hopeful. As they left the celebration, Victoria walked them to their car. Sunday dinner? She asked. I'll bring dessert. Only if it's not something too healthy, Maya said. Real dessert. With chocolate. I think I can manage that. Ethan drove home through the city he'd lived in his whole life. The same streets that had witnessed his lowest moment and his greatest triumph. The same buildings that had felt hostile and now just felt familiar. Daddy? Maya said from the back seat. Do you think things happen for a reason? What do you mean? Like, was all the bad stuff supposed to happen so the good stuff could happen after? Ethan considered this carefully. He didn't want to suggest that his suffering had been necessary or justified, but he also didn't want to deny that something meaningful had come from it. I think bad things happen sometimes, he said slowly. Not for a reason, just because the world is complicated and people make mistakes. But I also think we get to choose what we do with those bad things. We can let them destroy us, or we can use them to become better. Which one did you do? I tried to become better. I'm still trying. I think it worked, Maya said. You're the best daddy in the whole world. Even when I burned dinner? Even then. Ethan smiled, his heart full. This was what mattered. Not the awards or recognition or even the vindication, just this. Driving home with his daughter, knowing they'd made it through the worst and come out intact. No, not just intact, stronger, better, changed in ways that mattered. He taught Maya to always help others, even when it was hard. And when the universe had tested him on that lesson, he'd passed. Not perfectly, not without pain, but honestly. And in the end, that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.